It begins with the breath of stone, the cold, immovable kind that never forgets. You've lived so long under this dome of damp and silence that the rhythm of dripping limestone feels like your own heartbeat now. The fire is lowering, the way it always does when the night has gone past halfway, and the warmth has grown thin, like broth stretched over too many mouths. You shift on your mat of flattened grass and chewed hide, not to escape the chill, but simply to acknowledge it, an old companion you no longer resent, only recognize. Your shoulders ache the way they always do after a day of dragging wood too green to burn properly, and your back has shaped itself into the curve of the earth beneath you. There's a splinter under one fingernail you meant to dig out earlier, but now it's simply part of you, pulsing gently like a second pulse. The air is thick with the slow smolder of ash and animal, the remains of a fire that did its best. The last of the warmth licks your toes and leaves them unsatisfied. You draw them back beneath the coarse hide draped over your legs, the one that still smells faintly of wet fur and dried blood, even after 2 winters of use. Behind you, someone coughs. That deep, rattling kind of cough that pulls at the walls of the cave and makes the shadows shiver. You don't need to turn to know who it is. You've heard that cough in every season. It belongs to the old one who never sleeps fully, only hovers near sleep, like a spirit who forgot the way back. Sometimes he mutters in a tongue even he's forgotten. Sometimes he just rocks, and rocks, and rocks. Tonight, he is quiet again. For now. There's a snore to your left, snuffling and wet. A child, or maybe the woman with the long teeth and the silent eyes. It doesn't matter. In here, the sounds all bleed together. There are no walls, no doors, just bodies and breath and the knowledge that you are not alone, which is not the same as comfort. The cave walls are close, but not close enough to be kind. They rise up and vanish into darkness, swallowing smoke and sound. Somewhere above, bats shift in their hanging sleep, wrapped in themselves like secrets. Now and then, one drops something, a seed husk, a pellet, a thought, and you flinch without waking fully, because that's what you do. You've been taught by time to flinch first, then wonder later. The fire cracks. Once. A soft, brittle sound like a bone snapping in the cold. You open your eyes to the dull glow. Not light exactly, but suggestion. The orange breath of it barely touches the rock around you, casting more memory than vision. You see your hand, just a smudge of shadow against the cave floor, twitch once with the chill. You close your eyes again and try to follow the warmth, wherever it might still linger. Sleep, when it comes, is not a thing you reach for. It is a thing that overtakes you, like a slow fog creeping in from the riverbank. But it does not come quickly. Your limbs are restless in that way that comes from hunger without pain. Not starving, just never quite full. You curl tighter, then looser, trying to find a shape the earth will agree with. There is something sharp beneath your hip, a pebble or bone chip or memory, and you shift again, then give up. It will still be there in the morning, just like the damp in your joints and the taste of ash in your throat. You've long since learned which discomforts go away and which ones simply change shape. This one is the latter. Farther back in the cave, where the air is colder but the silence heavier, someone breathes like a bellows, slow and heaving and eternal. The goats are out of earshot tonight, penned near the mouth of the cave under a lean-to of brush and worry. You half miss them, their stink, their warmth, the way their feet shift and click like small wooden tools tapping together. But it's better this way. The last time they stayed close, one of them chewed through your bedding. It took a week to forgive that goat. You still haven't looked it in the eye. The wind outside whines now, gentle and high. It finds the cave opening and worms its way inside, dragging with it a curl of cold so pure it almost feels clean. You don't welcome it, but you acknowledge it. It's the same cold that nipped your fingers when you carried water today. The same one that watched from the trees as you scraped marrow from a frozen bone. It is patient, and everywhere. You hear a sigh near your feet. Not yours, not the old one's. A dream escaping, or a wish. Maybe someone is remembering warmth. Maybe they're just breathing like people do. You breathe too, slowly, carefully, as if you could pace the night by your own chest. The fire sputters again, less flame now, more ember, red like old eyes, or wounds. The rock beneath you has grown less forgiving, or maybe it's you who has grown more tired. It's difficult to tell where you end and the floor begins. Your shoulder has gone numb in the way that promises regret by morning, and your ear is filled with the dull hush of blood. You shift again, for the 100th time, and nothing changes except your awareness of how little you can change. Your skin itches where your hair rests against your neck. Your fingers curl under your armpit for warmth, and find only damp. You are not clean. No one is. Not really. But there's something softening in you. Not sleep yet, but it's suggestion. You let yourself loosen just a little, the way moss softens stone over years. You let go of the list of things that hurt and just lie in them instead. Let them be part of you, like the breath, like the dark. Outside, something calls. Not loud. A bird maybe, or something pretending to be. You don't open your eyes this time. You've learned the sounds here, the way some things speak not for you, but around you. You are neither threat nor comfort. You simply exist, like a tree root or a patch of lichen, something enduring, something ignored. You remember dimly the feeling of sleeping beside a fire that burned hotter. Not here. Long ago. Maybe. Or maybe it was a dream, the warmth so complete you forgot to ache. You almost believe it, but not quite. Believing is too expensive, and you have too little to trade. A tickle of ash settles in your nose. You hold your breath, trying not to sneeze. It passes. You exhale slowly through your teeth and feel the tightness in your jaw. Your tongue tastes like smoke and old teeth. You swallow. Nothing changes. The night continues. You are not alone. You are never alone. Even when no one touches you. Even when no one speaks. The breath of the others, warm and uneven, wraps around you like a second skin. Their dreams, whatever they may be, hover just above your own. Their fears curl into yours like sleeping dogs. You imagine the mouth of the cave, rimmed with frost. You imagine the wind trying to creep in and failing, repelled by the stubborn mass of sleeping bodies and the last defiant coals. You imagine the stars, the ones you almost never see, watching all of it without caring. You find that strangely comforting. The fire is nearly gone now. The shadows have deepened into stillness. And still, you do not sleep. But you are close. Close enough that you no longer care where your limbs fall or which part of you is coldest. Close enough that the ache has dulled to a hum. Close enough that your thoughts have gone quiet, each one sinking like a stone through a lake of breath. You let your eyes stay closed. You let your ears fill with the slow hush of night. You let the cave hold you, like it holds everything, with indifference, but also eternity. And somewhere, in the quiet, you begin to drift, not asleep, but no longer awake, just farther from the fire, and deeper into the dark, where the world forgets to hurt, and the next story begins, one heartbeat away. The cave was a memory now, smoke and stone and the weight of animal breath fading behind your shoulders like the embers of a fire too tired to protest. Now the ceiling is lower, closer, not made of stone but reeds and beams and pressed mud, all crouched together like quiet bones holding in the warmth. The walls are not alive, but they have grown used to your breath. They sweat in summer and shiver in winter, just as you do. You are no longer in the womb of the mountain. Now you are in something made by hands. Yours, perhaps. Or hands like yours, rough and red and always sore in the same places. The floor beneath you is firm, packed with time. Earth and ash and old footprints layered so long they've forgotten who stepped them. You feel the hardness through the straw mat, a thin, woven thing that crackles faintly each time you move. You shift your shoulder, slowly, the way you must each night. Not to get comfortable, because comfort isn't the goal, but to remember which side of your body is least bruised. The mat gives a little, like someone pretending to be soft. You accept the lie. It's easier that way. Outside, it rains. Not the kind of rain that comes and goes with thunder and drama, but the kind that settles in like an unwanted guest. Persistent, polite, soaking everything without apology. It has been falling since before the fire dimmed, and now it falls still, in rhythms only the roof seems to understand. You lie on your back and listen as it finds every imperfection, every gap in the thatch, every flaw in the joinery, every inch of ceiling that wasn't patient enough. You hear it in layers, a tap, a plop, a quiet splatter, like old fingers drumming on the belly of the night. The mat beneath you is a little damp. You shift again, trying to pretend it's not. The straw has grown sweet with mildew, a tang that nestles just under your nose. You've slept on worse. You've slept on mud, on bark, on other people. At least the mat doesn't kick in its sleep. It just lies there, woven with intention and slowly surrendering to decay. Your blanket, if it can still be called that, is a coarse cloth, heavy with yesterday's sweat and a little of today's grain dust. It smells faintly of rice husk and foot. You pull it closer anyway. Warmth, like kindness, doesn't have to be clean to be welcome. You tuck your feet underneath, curl one knee, and hope the leaking patch above your shoulder doesn't worsen. You know exactly how many drips per hour you can ignore before sleep gives up on you entirely. The hearth is dead. It died hours ago, not with ceremony, but with a soft hiss, like someone tired of speaking. The last breath of it drifted up into the smoke hole and never came back. Now the air has gone cool. Not cold, not yet, but enough that you notice each place your skin escapes the covers. The tips of your fingers, the inside of your wrist, the rim of your ear. You press them close, into yourself, and wait for the ache to dull. Somewhere nearby, someone shifts. The sound is barely more than a rustle, cloth against skin, breath against straw. A sibling, perhaps, a neighbor, someone whose dreams you'll never know, but whose coughs and sighs you've memorized like lullabies. Their presence is a kind of blanket too, not warm, but anchoring, proof that you are not the only one lying awake, listening to the rain dissect the roof one straw at a time. A dog coughs, short and wet, in the outer room. Not yours. No animal belongs to anyone here, but one who sleeps near the grain store and watches nothing in particular. It settles again, tail tapping once before stillness returns. You feel its weight even through the wall, just enough to remind you that not everything out there wants your rice. You shift again, slower this time. The mat sighs beneath you. You push your hand under your head, between the mat and the clay, and find the stone you always forget is there. You do not remove it. You just make peace with it, again, the way you do every night. Some discomforts don't deserve solutions, only recognition. The rain thickens, then softens, then thickens again, like a breath that can't decide if it's ready to sleep. You breathe with it, not because you mean to, but because that's how rhythms work. You let it carry you through the minutes, across the threshold of hours, through dreams you don't fully enter, and thoughts you don't fully leave. You think briefly of planting, of muddy feet and bent backs, of calloused hands sifting seed, of the way the air smells right before dawn when the ground is too wet and your knees remember every year you've ever lived. You let the thought dissolve like grain in water. The thatch above you shifts. A trickle makes its way through and lands. not on your face, thankfully, but close enough to warn you. You do not move. If you move, the blanket will slide. If the blanket slides, you will lose the warmth you've gathered like hoarded coins. You decide, in the way of someone who has lived through many nights, that a little damp is worth the cost. You listen to it spread, one drop at a time. It smells faintly of mold and roof dust. You forgive it. A child whimpers somewhere outside your wall, not crying, not even properly awake, just the small lost sound of a dream that turned in its sleep. You do not answer. You are not the mother. You are not the comforter. You are just the body lying here, pressed into straw and surrounded by the shared breath of people you will share every day with, and yet never truly know. Their warmth is enough. Their silence is enough. Your stomach turns, slow and sour. Too many root vegetables, not enough salt, or maybe the opposite. Either way, the ache is familiar. You shift again and press your hand against your side, not to fix it, but to acknowledge it. Hunger and fullness have grown too similar lately. You no longer trust the difference. The roof settles with a groan. One of the beams shifts slightly, not dangerously, just enough to remind you it is still there. The house breathes like the people in it. A long inhale of wet air, a slow exhale of tired wood. You breathe with it again, without meaning to. You are part of the structure now. You belong to the damp, to the woven mat, to the fireless dark. A mosquito whines near your ear. It disappears. You do not swat. What would be the point? It will return, or it won't. Some things have earned their victories. You let it win tonight. You are too tired to fight what is already fed. The rain lingers. Outside, it kisses the grain jars, the courtyard stones, the muddy feet of tools left leaning against the door. You imagine them, one by one, soaking quietly. Tomorrow they will be heavier. Everything will be heavier. That is how days begin here. Not with light, but with weight. Your fingers find the edge of the mat and curl beneath it. There's a splinter. You leave it there. Pain is a kind of warmth, too. A reminder that you are still in your body, still here. You let your eyes close again, not because you think sleep is coming, but because the dark behind your lids is gentler than the one above. You drift through the echo of rainfall, through the itch of your own skin, through the shallow comfort of shared breath. You do not sleep, but you do not fully wake either. You exist in the in-between, where dreams ferment in the belly of silence, and the roof leaks softly into memory. And somewhere, beyond the mat, beyond the rain, beyond even the thin line of morning you cannot yet feel, another rhythm begins to rise. The rain has passed, though the rhythm of it still lingers behind your eyes, like the imprint of light after staring too long at the sun. You carry it with you, tucked beneath your skin, the memory of water and weight and straw, soaked through with the hush of sky. But now the air is drier, still, brushed with heat even in the dark, a slow, pressing warmth that never quite retreats, even after the sun has folded itself away and left the valley to the shadows. This is a different kind of night. This one does not whisper. It hums. You are lying beneath a roof that is not a roof, but a suggestion. Stalks of papyrus and bundles of reeds lashed together and laid loosely above your head, more out of habit than protection. The stars slip through them easily, careless and glittering, as if distance makes them safe. They blink slowly above the Nile's breath, silver flecks suspended in a soup of blue-black silence. You lie beneath them, not looking, just aware, like being watched by something old that does not blink back. Your mat is woven from the same reeds as the roof. It creaks softly under your shoulder, a sound like a dry basket or a bird nest that has grown used to being stepped on. You shift, and it shifts with you, both of you resigned to the brittle scratch of each other's presence. Beneath the mat is packed earth, warm from the day, radiating its final offerings upward into the bones of your hips and the soles of your feet. It's a heat that doesn't move. It simply waits there, in the dirt, in your spine, in the air itself. A thin cloth covers you, not for warmth, but for the comfort of weight. The kind of cloth that no longer belongs to anyone in particular, passed from body to body, from season to season, stained with years and softened by too many rinses in river water that never runs clean, but always runs cold. You draw it up toward your neck and tuck it beneath your chin, not to protect yourself from chill, but from the buzz of night-born things that search for skin like yours in the dark. The air smells faintly of dust, of cooked barley, of palm oil, of something old and woven into the very fibers of the village. It is the scent of sandals and sun-warmed pottery, of the goat who sleeps too close to the wall, and the neighbor whose breath always sours with dusk. The smell is not strong, not unpleasant, just present. Like a stain you've grown fond of, too familiar to wash out. Above you, the night moves slowly. The stars drift with their ancient laziness, trailing their reflections across the surface of the river, where frogs mutter half-formed thoughts and reeds shiver with gossip too small to carry. You do not look at them. You already know what they'll say. You've heard them every night since you first laid your head down on this mat. They never change. Only your bones do. Near your shoulder, someone shifts, a sibling perhaps, or a cousin who shares your corner of the roof. Their breath is deep and uneven, pulled through a throat still hoarse from daytime dust. They turn once, then settle again, a soft grunt following them down into sleep. Their elbow brushes your ankle. You do not pull away. Space is not something you expect. Not at night. Not in this life. A mosquito lands somewhere on your wrist. You feel it without reacting. Let it feed, if it must. Better a quiet bite than the buzzing courtship that usually precedes it. The itch will come later, but that is a problem for the next version of you, the one who rises before light and combs yesterday from their hair. You roll gently onto your side, facing the wall. The wall is too generous a word. It is more of a boundary, a suggestion made from mud and straw, leaning into itself like an old man with bad knees. Cracks run through it like tired veins. Through one of them, you can see the flicker of another fire, not yours, but someone else's last defiance before sleep. The light dances like a moth on the edge of your vision, and you wonder briefly what they are cooking, or if it's just one final coal refusing to die. Your hip aches, not sharply, not newly. Just a dull reminder that the mat and the ground beneath it are not aligned with the idea of rest. You shift again, pressing one palm into the reeds to lift your weight. The papyrus sighs beneath you, and the straw whispers its disapproval. You press back down, slower this time. Let the ache find its usual position. Let it become background again. Somewhere beyond the house, which is not really a house, just a collection of places where bodies lie down and don't get up until morning. A donkey brays, low and disinterested. You can hear it echo faintly through the streets of dried earth and crumbled pottery. The sound blends into the chorus of night. Frogs, reeds, the distant splash of something larger than it should be in the river. You don't wonder what it is. The river is always full of things better left unnamed. A breeze stirs, lifting one edge of your cloth. It brushes your ankle with the softness of old feathers and the chill of traveling water. You curl your foot in response, slow and deliberate. The air settles again. You exhale without meaning to. Someone coughs in the next house over. The kind of cough that speaks of clay dust and grain chaff, of breathing in years rather than air. It rattles, pauses, rattles again, then silence. You do not wait to hear if they stir again. You do not have space for their ailments tonight. You barely have space for your own. The mat beneath you creaks again. You don't move this time. It is only your breath now, pressing into it. The slow expansion of your ribs. The way your back arches with every inhale like a bowstring half pulled. You let it come. You let it go. You have no more control over it than you do the stars. Above, the sky deepens, a shade darker than black, thick with time and heat, and the ghosts of locusts that may or may not return. The papyrus ceiling holds nothing back. You see a beetle trundle across one of the stalks, silhouetted by starlight. It moves with intention. You envy it. The cloth over you has shifted again, and now the spot behind your knee is bare. You feel the air on it like a whisper that doesn't want to be heard. You do not cover it. You have grown accustomed to letting the night choose which parts of you it wants. You listen to your own breath, not because it's interesting, but because it's there. A sound that reminds you that something still works. A thing that doesn't complain or ache or rot. Not yet. A child whimpers 2 houses over. Someone hums to them, or maybe to themselves. It's hard to tell the difference anymore. Everyone soothes someone in the night, even when no one is listening. Your eyes are half closed now, not out of sleep, but out of repetition. The lids grow heavy simply because they've had enough of seeing. You keep them that way. Let the dark thicken around you. Let it press close, like the cloth on your chest, like the warmth in the dirt. A mouse scurries behind your head. It finds a dry bit of husk and carries it off, triumphant. You do not mind. You will not miss it. You are not hungry yet. That is tomorrow's concern, or the next day's. You have learned the difference between hunger and absence. They feel similar, but only one leaves your body behind. The wind returns, a little stronger now. It smells of riverweed and fish and the distant smoke of something burning. Probably not yours. Hopefully not yours. You inhale it, slow and deliberate. Let it fill the spaces between your teeth, your ribs, your thoughts. You breathe like the river does, not because you want to, but because it's what there is. Your fingers find the frayed edge of the mat and pull. A single reed comes loose and curls like a snake that no longer has a job. You let it rest against your thumb, unsure whether to feel guilty or triumphant. You tuck it away beneath the cloth, a small secret shared between you and the night. The stars shift again. Not fast, not obviously, just enough that you feel their judgment slide from one shoulder to the next. You do not look up. Let them watch. Let them glitter. Let them forget your name. And slowly, as your breath settles, as the goat outside finally stops rearranging the straw near the water jar, as the firelight in the neighbor's house sputters into memory, and as the last frog croaks a tired final complaint, you slip into the dark beneath the reeds. You are part of it now, like dust, like sleep, like time. The stars have shifted again. You cannot see them now, but you feel it. The subtle migration of light behind your eyelids, as if the heavens have shuffled slightly in their endless hush. The Nile is far behind you now, just a phantom of water pressed into memory, the way a long-gone breeze sometimes lingers in the folds of a garment. Here, the air is drier, not lighter, just older. Sand presses against your side in small, deliberate ways, as though trying to remind you it was here first. It lives beneath the weight of you, beneath the folds of your rough wool blanket, beneath the thin mat that failed long ago to offer real protection. It presses up between the cracks in your joints, kisses the creases of your eyelids and the bend of your knees, and finds its way behind your ears, no matter how still you lie. You do not fight it anymore. The sand is not an intruder. It is your bedmate, your shadow, your breath. The tent is quiet, not in the way that walls are quiet, muffling, muting, containing, but in the way of things that are too thin to silence anything at all. The woven goat hair above your head sways faintly, breathing with the night. Every stitch whispers. Every seam remembers a time it nearly came undone. You know that feeling well. You are held together the same way. The air smells like sleep, or what sleep might smell like if it spent all day walking behind camels and all night steeping in wool and ash. There is the faint perfume of yesterday's fire, dry, bitter, still caught in your hair and clinging to your fingertips. Beneath that, the scent of the animals, thick and familiar, like warmth with a weight to it. Then the sharper tang of dried milk skins and something green that once grew but now crumbles. It all blends into something not pleasant, but comforting. You know every part of it. It smells like breath shared too closely in the dark. You lie on your side, knees drawn up beneath the thick blanket, a posture not of comfort, but of concession. Your shoulder aches faintly where the ground has given way. Not dramatically, just enough to remind you that sand is never still. It shifts slowly beneath your mat, adjusting itself around you like a cat that doesn't quite want you here. You exhale through your nose and let your bones surrender. There is no softer place. Beside you, someone stirs. Their exhale brushes the back of your neck, warm and irregular. You do not turn. There is no room for that. The tent is only wide enough for breath and the occasional dream that escapes without asking permission. The blanket stretches over both of you, not because of affection, but because there's only one. You feel the other's elbow tucked into your spine and the occasional twitch of their foot against your calf. You don't mind. You've learned to make peace with being someone's wall. A soft grunt from the corner. Another sleeper rolls onto their back, the dry rasp of their mat catching on the tent floor. You hear the rustle of cloth, the muted thud of heel against heel. Then stillness again, but not silence. The desert does not allow that. Outside, the wind moves like a slow breath drawn across dry lips. It does not howl. It murmurs, pulls lightly at the edge of the tent flap, teasing it just enough to let a sliver of sand drift in and settle onto the bridge of your nose. You blink it away with practiced ease, a single tear tracing the side of your face like a ribbon of memory. The wind carries a chill now, though you remember the day's heat, the way it wrapped around you like too much cloth, clinging even as you begged it to release. But the night is different. It doesn't burn. It waits. Somewhere in the dark, a camel snorts. The sound is sudden and wet, like a throat trying to remember how to speak. It is followed by a quiet shuffle, the dull clack of something large adjusting its burden. You imagine the animal blinking into the stars, unbothered, as ancient as the dunes themselves. You wonder if it dreams. You wonder what it dreams of. Your fingers curl around the edge of the blanket, rough wool against dry skin. The tips of your fingers are cracked, not painfully, just with the quiet complaint of skin that has done too much. You trace the seam of the fabric, following it like a path you've taken too many times. It leads nowhere, just a loop around your knees and back again. The tent creaks, not loudly, not urgently, just enough to let you know it remembers the wind. The ropes outside strain faintly, resisting the desert's gentle insistence. They will hold. For tonight. You have told yourself that before, and it has often been true. Your mouth is dry, not from thirst, though that's never far, but from the way the air steals things. It pulls the wet from your lips and the softness from your voice. Even now, you feel your tongue resting against the roof of your mouth like something left out too long in the sun. There is water in the skin bag near the tent flap, but you won't reach for it. Not now. Not in the space between sleep and nothing. The dryness will have to be enough. A child coughs in the tent next to yours. A soft, wet sound, followed by the hush of a parent's hand pressing cloth to skin. You do not hear the words, only the rhythm of comfort, the way breath slows when it is shared. You have known that hand. You have needed that hush. Now, you lie still and let it pass like wind through woven walls. There's a pebble beneath your rib. Small, sharp, insistently present. You try shifting. Once, twice. It only moves with you, a silent companion that refuses to yield. Eventually, you stop trying. You name it instead. Not with a voice, just with the quiet affection of endurance. It is a part of tonight now. It will stay longer than the stars. The air thickens, not with heat, not with smoke, just with the weight of too many breaths in one small space. The scent of garlic clings to someone's skin, the faint musk of fear to someone else's. You lie still and breathe it in. This is what closeness means. Not comfort, just the acceptance of proximity. Above you, a fly stirs against the tent wall. It clicks once, then falls still again. You wonder if it dreamed of meat, or freedom, or if it too simply waits. You shift again, trying to find a new shape for yourself within the blanket's limited embrace. Your spine resists, your knees protest, but eventually you settle. There is always a shape that works, even if only for a little while, even if it forgets you by morning. The stars beyond the tent cloth move slowly. Their light filters in through tiny gaps in the weave, tracing patterns across the roof that your eyes no longer try to follow. You remember when you used to count them, back when numbers still felt useful. Now, they're just light. Just reminders that the sky has somewhere to go, even if you don't. A breeze curls through a gap in the tent, bringing with it the scent of distant ash and something green that should not be here. You breathe it in, slow and deep, and hold it for a moment before letting it out again. There's a story in that scent, but it isn't yours. Not tonight. Someone sighs. Not you. Not close. Just another sleeper offering their breath to the dark. It drifts toward you, not as sound, but as permission. You let your own breath follow. In. Outside slow. Thoughtless. Like the rise and fall of dunes that forget how they were formed. You close your eyes fully now, not to shut out the world, but because there's nothing more to see. The night will continue with or without you. The tent will creak. The wind will whisper. The camel will dream. The pebble beneath your rib will remain loyal. And you, pressed between sand and silence, beneath stars you no longer count, beside a body whose breath you match without trying, you drift, not into sleep, not yet, but into that place where breath becomes rhythm, where silence becomes shelter, and where the sand, at last, remembers your shape. Softly, you find yourself unpeeling from the memory of sand and stars, drifting into the damp hush of cedar and pine that blankets this deep forest. Your bones still trace the curve of the earth, but the valley breathes around you now. The world changes from shifting dunes to rooted trees, standing silent sentinels that lean toward each other across centuries. You settle on the mossy floor, pressed into the sponge of fallen leaves and needles so thick it feels like a living thing beneath you. You are held, not by cloth, but by wood and earth and something older than the sky. The blanket is the forest itself, cool, soft, constantly moving. You feel the moss give in slow waves beneath your shoulders as if the land itself inhaled and exhaled with you. The scent is damp but not oppressive, green fresh, tinged with the high resin of pine and the low sweetness of decaying leaves. Each breath you draw tastes of morning dew from a million spongy pockets hidden beneath 1,000 years of fallen trees. Your fingertips find the curve of a root nearby, a rib of the forest, slick with moss and dark sap. Its surface is cool, slick, unyielding. You trace it absently, feeling it throb with life even in silence, as you would a vein beneath human skin. Beneath your elbow, a patch of lichen pokes into your palm, bristly and alien, like a thought that trips you from kinship, a reminder that you rest atop a world older than memory. The forest floor shifts under you. a subtle sigh of earth moving, always moving, so that your ribs flatten and your spine curves to match its rhythm. Your breath catches as the day's warmth seeps out of your limbs, like heat tracking away through damp roots. Now you breathe in the forest's cool exhale around you, through you. There is no tent here, no woven goat hair above. There is only sky glimpsed through shifting leaf light, only stars ensconced in branches, waiting to shine. You close your eyes, and the forest hums softly in response. An ancient lullaby. The country's first bedtime story draped over your skin. Someone exhales near you. A sibling, perhaps, pressing closer when the earth shudders with unnoticed footsteps. You feel their presence in the shared hush, the soft crack of twig under their palm as they settle. They shift again, and the muscles behind your back relax. You do not turn. You lie still, letting their warmth settle into your shoulder blade, the way moss might creep across a log. You think of how many others have slept like this, how many have listened to dawn filter through needles, their ribs rising with quiet thanks to the day. Above, the canopy trembles as a breeze finds its way through the needles. It does not blow. It whispers, brushing your temple. The sound is half membrane, half water, like the murmuring of wind across wet paper. You feel the breeze pass through you, lighten you, cool you. A drop of condensation lands on your forehead, wet enough to startle, but not cold. It slips down to your eyelid, pooling there before falling again. The tremor travels down your shoulder, through your spine, and you yield to it. You let yourself be soaked in dew, reclaimed, resigned. Away from you, a wood rat scuttles through dry pine cones, the loose shells clicking like distant chimes. You do not open your eyes. There is no need to see the small, closest creatures. Their movement echoes in your chest, soft, insistent, life always stirring beneath carpet. And you too are quiet and still, folded into the breathing world. Your knees press into leaf mulch so deep it muffles your every shift. Beneath it, small insects curl and shift, a secret multitude moving through the dark you cannot see. You feel the forest's pulse in the pliant undergrowth, some living rhythm connecting everything you cannot name. You lie heavy upon it, yet it gives to you, cradles you, pulls you into its fold. A thin shaft of early dawn light slices down through a gap above your heart, touching your chest like a benediction. You feel it warm your breastbone. It litters your navel, your thighs, your feet in spots of gold. The forest pauses around that light, needles poised, dew hanging like offerings. And you breathe, matching its rhythm, letting it claim you. The scent shifts. It is no longer only earth and needles, but something sweeter. You recognize the faint perfume of wild plum blossoms, still lingering on a breeze that somehow found its way here. A trace of fragrance brightens the damp air, like laughter long after it's been heard. You press your cheek into moss again, pressing yourself deeper into that drifting tapestry of green and gold. Your shirt, a living thing itself woven of grass or bark or fur, crawls beneath your ribs, damp with forest breath. You draw it tighter across your chest, feeling its coolness spread a fine chill. You do not adjust again. You know the way this night, this quiet coming of forest night, will fold into you, sculpting you to its shape. High above, branches scrape together, a friction that sounds like two bones rubbing. You shudder slightly and roll your head to the side, though your eyes remain closed. You think of how many have lain here, how many have heard these sounds. You feel a lineage in your bones, as if the forest's heart echoes in your own chest. A subtle ache blossoms there, not painful, just full, like you are remembering something you have not yet forgotten. A stick cracks softly, not far, yet everywhere, at the edge of hearing. You realize your body has tensed and relaxed again, a silent conversation with that forest, that world of endless secrets. You exhale again. You breathe into the stillness, matching whatever rhythm this place desires. The lichen beneath your palm cools further as the night deepens. You twist your hand slightly, leaves rustling under your fingers. The forest shifts again, a breathing thing. It responds with a lull that hums through your ears and settles into your bones. The air thickens with mist, soft as breath, soft as sleep. It pools around your head, drifting through your collar, pooling in your ears. It carries a sweetness beyond blossom, something older, something of wood smoke and moss. You taste the mist in your mouth, feel its film over your teeth. It is the forest's exhale, and you taste it like a gift. It lingers on your tongue as you breathe, like salt on a sleeping cheek. A small vibration runs through the ground, a tremor of small movement, subterranean. Something moving beneath the moss. You lie still, but notice the slight shift beneath your left heel. Undergrowth responding to you, acknowledging you, rooting you deeper. You smile, though your lips remain still, warmed by the knowledge that you belong here tonight. Your stomach growls softly, hunger from a fire long ago, tamed by the forest's lullaby. The scent of roasted chestnut drifts into your memory, distant and comforting like an absent aunt's embrace. You let it pass, letting the emptiness settle around you like a prayer. You do not need food now, just this ease, just this forest. A dewdrop rolls from a blade of grass overhead, landing under your chin. You taste iron, the forest's living blood running over your skin. You smile again and close your mouth to keep it. It is not enough to wake, only enough to mark your skin with memory. You sense a presence at the edge of vision, not someone, but something. The brush of something watchful moving through tree trunks. A deer pushing through brush, tall and careful. A wood rat again, less cautious now. A damp leaf falling. You do not open your eyes. You do not need to see it move. You hear it move. You know it is there. And you rest deeper. Above you, the dawn light bleeds further into leaf light, but you do not notice. You note only the shift in warmth upon your chest, the drifting of dew in your nostrils, the thoughtless murmur of wind through needles. The forest welcomes you deeper. It will carry you all the way, into that paused breath between waking and nothing. Your heartbeat eases, your jaw softens, your limbs drift. You cave into the embrace. The forest sighs, bends around you, layers itself like a blanket of living things and memories too slow to name. And you drift. The forest blankets you fully now. Your breath is the forest's breath. Your hush is its night. Softly, the echo of forest mist recedes, and you find yourself cradled anew by the taste of salt and the sigh of the sea, pulled gently into another memory of world and time. The forest's hush unspools in your mind, and in its place rises the ceaseless murmur of waves rolling onto rocky shores, and you lie now on a sleep mat woven from coarse rushes, laid upon boards that have felt the press of many boots and the scars of countless tides. The room hums with the wind's voice, a low chant through seams of sea-worn wood, and you settle into it, bone deep, unhurried, unmoving except in the soft inhale that sculpts your chest to its rhythm. Your body warms beneath layers of salted wool, knitted coarsely but with intention, smelling faintly of pickled fish and dried seaweed, a scent that the ocean leaves on everything it touches. Your fingers brush the rough fibers, finding then the cold press of driftwood beneath your palm, bleached by sun and storm. The wood insists beneath your wrist, unyielding in its age, carrying within it the slow rings of years at sea, the weight of sails, the grip of storms. You trace a grain so fine it feels like a river's line carved across time, reminding you that every plank of this hall has heard the rush of wind across deck, the slap of waves against keel, the sighs of those who have slept in its hum. Around you, presences settle as quietly as clouds. A sibling, older, grayer, draws their cloak about their shoulders, muttering something half-remembered in the curl of blankets. Across the way, your neighbor coughs beyond the inner wall, wood cracking slightly at her breath. Somewhere beneath the floor, a rat scratches at a gap, as though seeking entrance into warmth. A goat, tethered just outside, bleats softly, its hooves clicking on stone that glistens with sea spray. They are not actors in your dream, but elements of it, migrating through the margins of this memory, seen and unseen like the tides that bring drift across the jetty. The wind presses at planks, shifting them by fractions, and between those breaths you hear a hollow whoosh, like a call or a sigh. It is the breath of the house, inhaling salt and brine, exhaling its exhale into you. You rest into it. A cold finger traces your spine, carried by the whisper of draft that slithers through the pane of wattle and daub. You shudder only slightly, acknowledging the weave of this world into your flesh before succumbing more fully. Bones melding to the boards as though they've always been yours. A memory drifts in. The smell of fresh-cut timber at summer's end, stacked high to line the hall's walls against winter's fury. The scent still lingers, crisp and faintly resinous, a promise of warmth in months yet to come. You let yourself taste it. Beneath, the thicker scent of peat smoke curls upward, threading through the room like a slow river, coloring the air with the ache of hearth. You inhale it in deep, letting your lungs draw black smoke as though each ember bears the story of this place, carrying it through all you are. Your limbs press into the sleep mat, noting the individual rushes that grit at your skin, some supple and whole, others broken and soft. A few stray grains of sand cling to your trousers, and you shift slightly, dusting them off in a gesture so gentle it almost goes unwitnessed. The world is patient here. There is no hurry, no longing for tomorrow's dawn. There is only this slow descent into rest, beckoned by the ocean's rhythm and the solidity of oak beneath you. A faint thrum emerges as the sea crashes against the stone breakwater, enough to trace into your consciousness, a soft percussion upon which your heart begins to align its own quiet pulse. You realize your shoulders have relaxed. Your lips feel drier than before, and your tongue tastes faint iodine, the sea's insistence on being remembered. You press it across your teeth, letting the brine settle like affirmation. Yes, this is real. You are here, and you are being held. The wind amasses louder now, builds across the pane until the wood hums in response. That hum, like a chord struck in a half-forgotten dream, reverberates in your sternum. You become aware of the swell of your ribcage, measured and even, and you guide it into the house's song. Inhale, stronger now. Exhale, softening. Each breath learning to fall in step with the hall's tides, the slow sway of waves worn into the boards. You focus again on temperature, how the air that brushes your neck feels sharper than at your feet, colder near your face, yet mitigated by the blanket's embrace. You savor the contrast, like dipping your hand first into the ocean, then against the rude warmth of hearth fire. It is soft and strange to feel both worlds, the sea and the home, converge upon your skin. Your throat loosens. You tilt your head to the side to let the blanket settle further, shutting out the world until all that remains is drift. Somewhere in the vastness of tall timbers, something creaks deeper, a settling that speaks of weight and age, a presence not human, but intrinsic. A slow, low rumble, unchanged by seasons, waves, or human breath. You permit yourself to lean into it, to let sleep begin its quiet work. Your jaw unclenches. Your eyelids become heavy. You feel the distinction between wood and body blur. The night air drapes across your chest like a cloak of mist, and breath by breath, you drift further. A whiff of seaweed from the shoreline drifts through a gap in the door. You taste it on your lips. You are lying upon the brine-soaked world. You are buried under salt and sun and wood. You are being lulled by the ancient halving of land and sea. Somewhere beyond the door, a gull shrieks and then falls silent. The winged echo drifts across the stones, just loud enough for your ear to catch and forget again, swallowed by the swell of your own exhale. You feel the press of ocean memory against your skin, the creak of timber breathing beside you, the blanket's wool rendering versions of warmth that remind you just enough of hearth to hold you between two worlds, sea and shelter, salt and smoke. The place folds gently into you. You fold with it. You fold into it. Drifting, drifting. You are becoming as settled as driftwood, as composed as the hall, as resigned as the waves when they crest and fall and crest again in endless persuasion. You anchor in the hush between inhalation and exhalation. You anchor in that pause, that subtlest infinite, as seconds bleed into deep night. The scent of salt and sea-worn wood still clings faintly in your chest, but now it gives way to something deeper, darker, warmer. The air changes, grows heavier with the breath of wood smoke and bark, of packed earth and ash. The sea fades behind you, retreating like a memory too tired to remain. You are cradled now by timbers not lashed by waves, but by time itself, shaped by hands that know stories too old to speak aloud. You lie flat on your side, knees curled, spine curved against the gentle swell of woven mats that smell of last summer's grass, now long dried and cracked into softness. Beneath the mat, the earth is solid, but not cruel, its firmness interrupted by fur pelts and layers of woven bark that rustle when you move, just barely. But you do not move much anymore. The warmth of many bodies presses gently at your back. Breathing becomes a shared act, slow and communal, as if every inhale you take belongs partly to someone else. Around you, the longhouse does not sleep so much as settle. It exhales with you, the walls, the beams, the tightly bound rows of saplings overhead. They creak in the cold, but not out of protest. They creak like joints long in use, stretching after a long day. Above, thin smoke drifts toward an open vent, its path lit by moonlight that finds its way in carefully, as though it too must ask permission before entering. The warmth inside isn't fire so much as presence, the slow accumulation of heat from 50 bodies, or more. You feel it in your fingertips, in your knees, even in the small of your back where the blanket slips just slightly. The wool there itches, a rough edge brushing against the softest curve of skin, familiar as your own breath. You don't bother fixing it. There's little difference between a mild annoyance and a daily reality when both are wrapped in the scent of cedar and sleep. A small cough crackles somewhere to your left. Someone shifts, and a floorboard groans. No one speaks. No one ever speaks now, not after the fire has been banked. The children stopped whispering hours ago. Even the restless ones have fallen into the rhythm of night, not still, not silent, but suspended in a low hush that thickens like the smoke. The smell of maize lingers in the air, cooked hours ago, but it clings to the wood, to the mats, to your clothes. Your stomach registers it faintly, not with hunger, just memory. The day was long, and your body is sore, the pleasant kind of sore, born not from suffering, but from usefulness. You feel that usefulness in your joints now, in the heaviness of your legs, and the slow throb behind your shoulder, where the carrying strap left its familiar bruise. Your hand lies near another's, perhaps your cousin's, perhaps not. It's hard to say. You don't look. It doesn't matter. What matters is the quiet cadence of skin near skin, the silent knowing that you are not alone in this narrow world of wood and firelight. The longhouse holds you all like a single breath drawn in and never released. You listen, not for anything, but because there is always something to listen to. The tiny clink of beads against bark, a snore 3 families away, the distant hoot of an owl muffled by hides stretched across the walls, a dog shifting in its sleep, its claws tapping softly against the dirt floor, then stilling again. You feel that stillness spread outward, ripple through the mats and the limbs and the very timbers above your head, like a pond disturbed, then calm again, always calm again. Somewhere above you, a drip begins, water finding its way through the bark shingles after a day's melted frost. It plinks against the rim of a woven basket, a slow metronomic tapping that joins the hush like a drum in a song no one sings aloud. You listen to it for a while. You don't know how long. Time is slower here, stretched by smoke and muscle memory. The air tastes faintly of resin, pine mixed with soot, aged into a fragrance you don't even notice unless it's suddenly gone. You suck it in, let it warm your ribs, and settle into the spaces between your bones. You try not to move. Movement would mean reshaping everything. Your blanket, your leg pressed into the mat, the child's foot that has found its way beneath your hip. You don't move. You endure, because the discomfort is less than the disturbance. A log shifts in the hearth at the far end. You don't open your eyes, but you feel it. A faint flicker of light dances against your closed lids, not enough to pierce the dark, just enough to remind you that the fire still lives, however faintly, and that is enough. Enough to trust that the cold is kept at bay, that the world outside, the brittle stars, the frost-laced branches, the hunger in the wind, will not enter here. Not tonight. Your skin itches from smoke and old sweat. You think about scratching, but your fingers are warm and your muscles are still. The thought is enough. You do nothing, and nothing is perfect. Near your head, you hear the rustle of someone else turning, the crackle of bark mat against fur, the exhale of someone older, their breath thick with sleep and perhaps memory. You imagine the stories living in the beams above you, passed from one breath to another. Stories not told in daylight, but dreamt in shadows, etched into the scent of cedar and the hush between heartbeats. A breeze noses its way through a seam in the wall, smelling of snow and pine. You feel it curl across your cheek, cold and brief. The blanket shields most of it. You exhale into your own warmth, sealing it around your lips like a private cave. You feel your breath bloom there, against skin and wool and the edge of sleep. A thump, a sigh. The crackle of embers long since faded into coal. The longhouse is not quiet, not truly, but it is slow. It breathes. It remembers. It endures. You are part of it. And in the spaces where your thoughts once lived, there is now only the faint creak of roof beams and the ghost of someone else's dream settling gently beside your own. You do not chase sleep. It finds you, softly, like a footstep through pine needles. Gently, like a shadow that doesn't wish to wake the room. And when it comes with the weight of 10 generations resting against your back. Not heavy, just present. And the warmth of firelight, long since cooled, and the hush of bark against bark, and the knowledge that you are held, that the longhouse breathes, and you breathe with it. And then, like a puff of ash from a hearth not quite dead, you drift, you settle, and the sound of one final exhale, not yours, hums through the rafters and fades into the dark. The murmur of voices fades behind the thick reed curtain, like a river finally tiring of its own sound. Outside, the baked courtyards crack and sigh in the night air, still releasing the heat they swallowed during the day. The longhouse that breathed with many now gives way to walls made not of trees, but of mud and memory. And you, still carrying the rhythm of communal sleep in your limbs, must now fold into a different silence. A smaller one shaped by clay. The walls around you hold their warmth in patches, uneven like the surface of an old loaf left too long by the fire. Press your palm to one side, and it's almost soft, damp with the ghosts of yesterday's sweat. Slide it a few inches, and the coolness returns, dusty and brittle, like an old regret no one quite mentions anymore. These walls do not breathe. They listen. The mat beneath you is woven reed, crisscrossed and worn, brittle at the edges where time has chewed away at it. It pokes through your tunic in places, a tiny insistence against your shoulder blade, the side of your knee, the kind of discomfort that becomes part of you if you lie still long enough. There is a lump under the right hip that cannot be reasoned with. You shift, once. It remains. You shift again, more slowly this time, like a bargeman easing his vessel from mud. It moves with you, as if amused. The room smells of pressed earth, singed oil, and the quiet mustiness of stored grain. That thin, flowery scent that suggests mice, though you haven't seen one in days. But you've heard them. Oh yes, soft rustlings by the far corner, sometimes near the amphora where barley is kept. You pretend they are not there, that you are alone. Or better, that you are not alone, but watched over by something larger than mice. A spirit of smooth stones, something forgotten but vaguely benevolent. The oil lamp by your mat flickers. It does not dance. It coughs, sulks, sighs. The flame is small and misshapen, its wick half drowned in a puddle of soot-darkened fat. Its light is not kind. It does not cast heroic shadows or glow with any warmth. It reveals only enough to unsettle. A pile of folded fabric becomes a hunched figure. A broom leans like a man too tired to stand. You would prefer darkness, but there is no one here to put it out for you. Your fingers brush the edge of your blanket, rough linen, patched twice, smelling faintly of the herbs your mother stitched into its seams last season. She swore it would keep the sickness away. She did not mention how the scent would linger past comfort and turn slightly sour in the damp. Still, you tug it higher, not for warmth, but for habit. The same way a child pulls the curtain closed, even when the sun has long since gone. Above, the ceiling curves low and uneven. Mud brick pressed over beams, drying with cracks like riverbeds seen from far above. A spider lives near one of them, you think. But it only reveals itself when you are almost asleep. A thread of movement in the corner of one eye, a line drawn and erased before you can catch it. It is not a threat. It is simply part of the roof, like the soot, like the smell of stale onions. From beyond the walls you can hear the city. Not clearly, never clearly, but always. It's the sort of noise that settles under the skin. Distant hooves on hard-packed earth. A pot clinking against another. A low murmur, possibly prayer, possibly complaint, possibly both. You wonder how many others lie now on mats like yours, in homes like this one, listening to the same sounds and deciding not to mind them. Your brother's breath creaks from the other end of the room, not snoring exactly, more like someone who disagrees with sleep on principle but has given up fighting it. His foot twitches now and then, brushing against the clay wall with a dry scuff. You do not respond. You do not shift. The rhythm of your own breath has grown too precious to disrupt. The floor is cool beneath you, despite the reed mat. There is always a thin layer of dust, no matter how often it is swept. It clings to your elbows, to the soles of your feet, to your thoughts. You've stopped brushing it away. It will return anyway. Everything does. Dreams, dust, small annoyances in the shape of insects. The air is thick, not oppressive, not yet, but heavy in a way that slows time. Each breath feels earned, not labored, just considered. You inhale, you exhale. You listen to the lamp's hiss. You do not move. There's a neighbor somewhere who always coughs twice before sleeping. You have never seen her. You don't know her name. But the two short coughs come every evening, shortly after the last child cries and before the donkeys quiet. And tonight, they come again. You nod to yourself, though no one sees. It is oddly comforting to know the world continues without you needing to manage it. The walls lean in slightly, not in a menacing way, just enough to remind you that this home is older than your memories of it. that it has outlasted floods, quarrels, marriages, and drought, that it holds its secrets tightly in the clay. Maybe someone once slept here who dreamed of better mats. Maybe someone before them dreamed of a roof that didn't leak. You wonder if you are part of someone's dream now, or part of their forgetting. Outside, a dog barks once, far away, then again, closer, then silence. You imagine the street, winding and narrow, lined with uneven stones, damp in the middle from a leaking cistern. You imagine the oil merchants packing away their stands, the boy with the broken sandal limping toward home. You imagine the stars, barely visible above the smoke haze, trying to remember their names. You do not look out the window. There is no window. Only a high slit in the wall, stuffed with cloth during cooler nights and left bare when the air turns thick. Tonight it is stuffed, poorly. A breeze pokes through now and then, curious but not committed. It smells faintly of river mud and old fish. You curl 1 foot inward. The blanket follows. A sharp corner of reed pokes your thigh through the linen. You do not flinch. You simply remember it. The way you remember where the lamp sits, how many steps to the door, which tile cracks underfoot when pressed just so. Your mother used to tell you that dreams were whispers from God, that each one carried meaning, a message hidden in wool and bone and blue sky. She would burn bits of incense near your mat and mutter the names of stars. Now, the incense is gone. The stars have no names, but the dreams remain. Shapeless things that settle behind your eyes like smoke. You think of the market, the thrum of voices, the grit of grain between your fingers. You think of fish drying on ropes, of sandals slipping in the mud, of the woman with the thin gold ring who never speaks but always watches. You think of all the things that might become dreams, or already are. Your brother sighs again, this time louder. He turns. The mat rustles. A puff of dust stirs in the dark. You shift your arm to cover your face, not to block the dust, but to hold something, anything, a weight, a shape, a reason. The lamp gives one final sputter. It goes out without drama, without permission. The dark rushes in like an old friend, uninvited, but not unwelcome. You lie still. You listen. The walls hold their breath. The dust floats. Somewhere, a rat shifts. Somewhere, someone forgets your name. And you drift, not away, but down, into clay, into silence, into a night that has known you longer than you've known yourself. A quiet, uneven breath, a distant rustle of reeds, a star no longer trying to be seen, and everything fades. The scent of oil still clings faintly to your fingers, though you haven't touched the lamp in some time. Somewhere in the silence, the wick gave in to the night, and now the clay bowl sits cold beside the wall. The soft shape of the room grows deeper in darkness, blurred and muffled as if the air itself were wrapped in wool. You do not move. You do not need to. The stones beneath your body have already pressed their shape into your bones, and the linen above you, thin and scratchy, rests against your chest like a tired thought. You shift your foot slightly, brushing against the edge of the mat. The cool floor speaks back through your heel, unyielding, smooth, a little damp from the sea air that sneaks in despite everything stuffed into the cracks. The walls are thick, yes, but even plaster remembers the weather. And tonight the breeze has fingers. It pulls across your face like the tail end of a question, carrying with it the dry breath of a fig tree that hasn't been watered in 2 days, and the slightly sour scent of bread that didn't rise as it should have. You exhale into the room, a little longer than necessary, as if offering something back to the night. The house takes it without thanks. Overhead, the rafters whisper. Wood always remembers where it was cut, and these beams groan not from effort, but age. They complain softly to themselves in the voice of a time when the house was newer, the family was smaller, the winters were less cruel, or perhaps just less remembered. The same wind that cooled your cheek touches the ceiling, finds a crevice, pushes a whisper through it, then retreats, as if testing the house's patience. You hear your brother's breathing from the other side of the partition, not quite snoring, but not gentle either. That irregular kind of inhale that suggests a mind still chewing on something. Possibly goats. Possibly tomorrow. Possibly nothing at all. You hear it through the thin cloth hung to divide the space. That curtain patched and repatched so many times it no longer remembers its original color. You suspect it has never been washed, not properly. Your own corner is modest, even within modesty. A bundle of straw tied into a mat, flattened by use, edged with fibers that catch on the soles of your feet when you shift. The linen above you, worn thin from washing and wear, smells of clay and summer sweat. Not foul, but honest. A scent you know so well it's become invisible. You itch under your knee. You scratch without urgency. Whatever insect lives in the mat has claimed you, and you are too tired to argue. The wall to your left is cool, the plaster flaking in some places, the stone beneath pressing through. You sometimes rest your hand against it in the heat, but now it only steals warmth. You withdraw your palm and tuck it beneath your ribs, finding a pocket of heat left by your own skin. It's a game you play, night after night. The gathering and conserving of warmth, like water cupped in the hands, always on the verge of leaking away. Your neck aches. It always aches. The little lump of cloth you use as a pillow shifted sometime in the evening, and now it sits beneath your shoulder blade like a grudge. You could fix it, but to fix it would be to move, and to move would be to wake. So instead, you listen to the room. There is always the sound of a neighbor, the cough that comes from 2 walls away, shallow and wet, as if his lungs have been steeped in vinegar. It's always the same cough, at the same hour, followed by silence. You imagine him propped up in bed, one elbow lifted, glaring at the rafters as if they had wronged him. You've never spoken to him, but you know him better than most. Then the scratch beneath the floor, not alarming, familiar. The rat who lives under the central stone. You haven't named it, though your sister has. She speaks to it sometimes, not loudly, and never in words she would repeat during the day. You suspect she tells it secrets, and perhaps it tells her things back. The air shifts again, a new breath from the windowless night. The curtain flutters faintly, like the last gasp of a dream trying to escape before morning. Somewhere outside, a dog whines. Not yours. You've never had one. But there are many in the alleys, thin, yellow-eyed things that know how to steal figs and disappear into corners. You roll to your side, slow as silt in the tide. Your hip protests. So does the mat. The straw crackles, breaking in new places. You'll need to rebundle it soon. Or not. No one has time for such things, and no one remembers when the last bundle was made. The coals in the kitchen hearth have gone cold. You cannot see them, but you know it. The warmth that once lived in the center of the house has withdrawn into its shell. Your mother will rise before dawn to coax it back, muttering into the ashes as if the fire were a stubborn child refusing to wake. You've heard her speak to it like that, and sometimes the fire listens. The ceiling creaks again, this time from your own shifting weight. A moth stirs somewhere above, confused by the lack of flame, its wings tapping once against the beam. Then stillness. The hours stretch like old leather. Time in this house does not march. It seeps. You trace the same cracks on the wall with your eyes, the hairline fissures that crawl outward from the corner like spider legs. You've counted them before, not out of curiosity, but because there is little else to do when the night grows too loud and it's quiet. You do not remember the number now, only that it changed depending on the light. Your toe brushes the clay jug set at the end of your mat. Water, flat and warm, but even warm water has its uses. You pull the jug closer, cradle it between your palms. Its surface sweats. You drink a little, just enough to wet your tongue. The taste is familiar. Clay, dust, perhaps a hint of old bread. You do not mind. You lie back again, folding into the ache of your own spine, wrapping yourself in the weight of the linen as if it were a memory you're not ready to let go of. The stars are hidden behind the roof, but you know where they should be. You imagine them anyway. Cold fires in a darker sky, watching from a place where sleep has no meaning. A floorboard groans beneath your brother's restless foot. He has turned again. You wonder, briefly, what he sees behind his eyelids. You hope it is a better place than this room, though not too different. Just better enough to rest in. Your stomach churns. Not hunger, exactly. Just the dull echo of a day's worth of boiled lentils sitting where richer food might have dreamed of being. You breathe through it. That's all there is to do. A breeze slips through again, threading through the cloth curtain, ruffling the ends of your blanket like a careful hand. You let it come. Let it pass. There is a softness in your eyelids now, the kind that doesn't ask permission. Your limbs no longer belong entirely to you. They sink downward, heavy as amphorae, their handles tucked against the cool stone. You feel the night pressed down like a blanket too large for the room. It does not ask your name. It does not need it. You drift, not upward, not downward, but outward, like ink into linen, like breath into steam, like sleep across a cracked floor. The last breath of the previous chapter has not yet faded when you find yourself here, wrapped not in blankets, but in vows. Stone walls press in close, not to smother, but to hold. The air has a certain patience to it, as though it has been waiting centuries for your next breath. The bed is not a bed. It is a wooden frame, unadorned, unkind, barely softened by a thin straw-stuffed mattress. The linen that wraps you is coarse and scratchy, like forgiveness earned too late. Your robe twists around your legs like a silent rebuke, heavy with the smell of candle wax and old wool. Sleep in a monastery is not an indulgence. It is a discipline, and you have learned slowly how to surrender to it. Outside your narrow cell, the corridor groans softly under the feet of night. Someone else is still awake, or perhaps half asleep in prayer. The cloisters carry whispers like a shell carries the sea, soft, distant, and ancient. You turn your head on the hard wooden pillow. A shape shifts beside your door. A brother kneeling, a robe hanging. You do not check. Here, the line between what is present and what is memory is not so clear. The stone beneath you is colder than reason, and just as unyielding. The straw mattress does little. It crackles under your weight, disheveled and flattened in places where your body has pressed its shape night after night, like wear on a favored psalm. You pull your robe tighter. The draft is a creeping thing, seeping through cracks in the shuttered window, curling beneath the door, wrapping around your toes like a silent reprimand. Somewhere nearby, a candle gives up. It sighs as it dies, smoke blooming into the hush, thick and fragrant with the scent of tallow and hours. The darkness is now complete, except for a faint grayness that leaks in through a high sliver of stone-framed moonlight. It outlines your fingers, your breath, the edge of the wooden bowl you use for water. You shift slightly, trying to find a patch of warmth on the mattress, but the straw has long since given up its kindness. One knee presses into the hollow of the boards beneath. Your back protests. Your hip whispers of old aches. But this is not the kind of discomfort that wakes you. It is the kind that teaches you to breathe smaller, shallower, slower. Sleep comes here not as a visitor, but as a rule. It arrives not in dreams, but in surrender. Somewhere, a monk stirs and coughs behind his wall. Another mutters a final prayer, too soft to parse, more breath than word. These are your neighbors, not in the way of cities, but in the rhythm of shared silence. You do not know their sins. You barely know their voices, but you feel them in the floorboards, in the way the air moves, in the little creaks of night that shift as bodies turn beneath scratchy blankets. The bells will ring again soon. They always do. First before dawn, then at intervals that slice the day into sacred pieces. But for now, there is this pause between what was and what must be. You let your limbs go slack. Let your spine align with the grain of the bed. Let your breath match the old rhythm of stone and stillness. Your hand, half tucked beneath your ribcage, brushes the small wooden cross you keep there. Its edges are worn smooth, not from reverence, but from time. Your fingers have found it in sleep often, like a touchstone you didn't know you were reaching for. You curl your fingers around it, not tightly, just enough to remember that it is there, that you are here. The chill is constant. It is not bitter, not cruel, just unwavering. A presence, like the rule itself, neither kind nor unkind. It has its own weight, its own authority. You learn to live beneath it. You learn to sleep inside it, like slipping into cold water until your skin forgets what warmth felt like and begins to belong to the cold instead. From far off, through 2 doors and a hallway, you hear the groan of the outer gate as the nightkeeper checks the latch. Iron on wood. The hinge has a song it always sings. You could hum it if you were the kind to hum. But silence is the truer song here. Silence and stillness, and the breath of 1,000 monks who came before, whose bones now lie beneath the flagstones of the chapel, keeping vigil in their own quiet way. Your stomach growls faintly. Supper was thin. Lentil broth, crust of bread, the sharpness of goat cheese that lingered longer than it should have. Hunger here is familiar, predictable. It sharpens you without asking. You do not resist it. You nod to it quietly, like an old companion who rarely speaks but never leaves. Your mouth is dry. The clay cup beside your bed is half full, the water old and tasting faintly of dust and wood. You drink it anyway. The coldness slips down your throat like a memory. It does not refresh. It does not disturb. It simply joins you. You hear, in the room next to yours, a sleeper turning in his bed. The boards groan. A prayer is whispered. Not for you, not even aloud, but it brushes your ears like smoke slipping through a crack in the wall. You do not answer. But your thoughts slow, settle, begin to sink. The candle stubs in the hallway are all gone now. Their last breaths coiled hours ago, leaving nothing but shadows that do not move. And still, you lie here, waiting, not for sleep, but for the forgetting. The sweet gray fog that slips over the mind like a hood over the eyes, like the chant that drones just long enough for your breath to fall in line with its rhythm. You imagine the chapel, dark now, save for the flicker of the sanctuary lamp. Its golden flame dances with a loyalty that you envy. You have sat beside it on nights like this, in your turn at watch, cradling the chill in your lap like a cat that will not be moved. It stares back at you sometimes, the flame, not warm, not cold, just present, just enduring, like you. Your body aches, but not in protest. It is the ache of having existed for too long on hard surfaces, of having bent too long over pages, of having walked too many cloister steps in slow, circular thought. The ache is familiar. It is part of the liturgy. It hums beneath your ribs, behind your knees, across your collarbone. And still, the breath comes, one after the other, a little shallower now, a little longer between each. You are not yet asleep, but you are no longer quite awake. A moth flutters once against your shuttered window, seeking light that no longer burns. You hear its tiny wings brush the wood, and then, nothing. Your body, wrapped in rough cloth, softened only by the memory of warmth, begins to forget its edges. Your mind drifts to the psalm you last murmured, the one about lying down in peace. You did not feel peace when you spoke it. But now, in the hollow between the bell's silence and its next demand, Something like peace settles into the crook of your elbow, into the arch of your foot. Stone does not sleep, but it keeps your secrets. You let the candle's ghost guide you into the dark. You let the cold become the shape of your rest. You let the silence take your name and whisper it into nothing. And still, you lie there, fading gently, like the last breath of wax, curling into the cloistered dark. The stone is gone now. No more cold floor beneath your spine. No cloister shadows. No waxy breath of candlelight curling toward a vaulted ceiling. What held you before has let go, and in its place, air, gentle, heavy, wet with life. You float, not in dream, not in metaphor. You truly float, suspended between two trees whose trunks stretch beyond the reach of sight in the dimness. The hammock beneath you curves like a cradle, woven from vines and bark and hands older than yours. It shifts gently with your smallest movement, as though the forest itself is breathing with you, as though your weight is part of its rhythm now. There is no wall, no roof, no door. The jungle doesn't close in, it simply surrounds. A constant whisper of insects, the distant plop of something falling into unseen water, the rhythmic drone of frogs deep in their own conversations. The air is not silent, but it is soft. It carries a hush made not of stillness, but of patience. You are not alone here, but you are not disturbed. The fire burned low hours ago. Only its memory glows now, in the faint orange tint on the leaves above you. The smoke has stopped climbing. The warmth it gave still lingers on your shins, where the woven blanket doesn't reach. Everything else, knees, fingers, nose, is cool with dew. Not cold, not yet, but soon. Your hammock creaks, a soft sound, barely more than a murmur of fiber against fiber. It rocks as you shift, and the motion travels outward, into the air, into the trees. It feels less like you moved, and more like the jungle acknowledged you. Noticed, adjusted. Overhead, the canopy blocks most of the stars, but not all. A few glimmer between the swaying leaves, small, stubborn, quiet, like eyes that never close. The sky here is not vast, it's filtered, fragmented, gentle. You look up and feel, not watched, but remembered, as if even the stars know your name and say nothing. The hammock presses against the curve of your back, the bend of your knees, the back of your heels. It holds you the way vines hold a fallen branch, tightly enough to keep, loosely enough to breathe. The netting is rough in some places, soft in others. It smells faintly of smoke and sap and something slightly bitter, like a leaf that didn't dry properly. You do not mind. That smell is part of the sleep. A sibling stirs nearby. You can't see them, but you hear it. A sigh, a thud, the hammock ropes squeaking under weight. They dream noisily, always have. Sometimes with little gasps or mumbles that make the dog lift its head for no reason at all. That dog sleeps beneath you now. You can't see her, but you know. You felt her warmth earlier, pressed briefly against your feet before she curled closer to the fire. Her breath is audible in the quiet, a slow huff, then stillness. Again, mosquitoes buzz near your ear. Not many, not like earlier, but one, persistent. You brush it away, slow and lazy. You do not bother to open your eyes. If it bites, it bites. You're tired, the kind of tired that lives in your bones, where no scratch or itch can truly reach. The jungle hums with things you'll never see. Wings so thin they shimmer, creatures so small they ride the wind itself. But they do not come to harm you. You're part of the night. Just another shape hung between trees. Another breath exhaled into damp air. No more threat than a leaf, no more important than a beetle. And that insignificance is its own kind of comfort. There are shadows here, but they do not hide anything. They simply are. The kind that form in folds of bark under the hanging fronds, behind the eyes of things too shy to blink. You let your gaze drift through them, not searching, just seeing, just existing in the space they make. Your hip itches. A mosquito bite. Maybe yesterday's. You rub it absent-mindedly through the blanket. The blanket is coarse, woven by hands you know well. It smells like river water, like campfire smoke, like the palm that brushed your arm earlier when they handed it to you. You press it closer to your chest and listen. Rain has not come, but it might. You can feel it in the hush. The air has grown stiller, thicker, not hotter, but fuller, as though even the clouds are holding their breath. The woven roof above your sleeping area is patchy, by design. You don't need full cover, just suggestion. Something to mark where the night ends and your space begins. It keeps the dew from falling directly on your face. Usually. Sometimes a cold drop finds its way through the netting and lands on your cheek. You let it linger. Let it soak and dry on its own. Your shoulder hurts, faintly. You don't know why. Or perhaps you do. Perhaps it was the load of firewood earlier, or the basket of roots you carried longer than you meant to. Or perhaps it's simply the weight of being held, always held, by gravity and rope and duty. You shift slightly. The hammock groans again. The rope creaks like a voice clearing its throat, then stills. The fire gives one last sigh, its embers not quite dead. A faint red gleam on the leaves, a soft hiss like water touching heat. And then it too sleeps. You curl slightly, just enough to feel smaller, to feel contained. The world is too large tonight, the trees too tall, the sounds too wide. You pull your knees in and tuck the blanket tighter, and the hammock responds with a little sway. Back and forth, back and forth. The same rhythm your mother used, long ago. Or maybe it was someone else. Memory blurs here. Time doesn't follow straight lines in the jungle. A child whimpers in a hammock nearby. Just once. A soft, uncertain noise. A parent stirs in response. A rustle. A whisper too low to hear. Then quiet again. The child turns. The hammock sways. All is still. You smell smoke on your skin, your hair, your clothes. The smoke of wood you gathered, bark you stripped, coals you coaxed into flame. That smoke is part of you now, a second skin. It settles over you like dust, like memory, like something sacred. You breathe it in and let it anchor you. Your eyes close. They open. They close again. You are not counting time. Time counts you. Every breath, every heartbeat, every slow sway of your body between two ancient trees. You do not belong to hours or minutes. You belong to now, to this breath, and this one, and this. Your ear hears something slither through leaves. Not close, not far. You listen, then forget. The jungle is always moving, always watching, always dreaming. You let it dream you too. You do not pray. But you think of things, of the river and its moods, of the jaguar's distant cough, of the moon that sometimes shows itself through the canopy, like a coin lost between boards. You think of warmth, of stories told over boiling pots, of laughter that fades into sleep like steam rising from a bowl. You are so tired, not in a desperate way, in a final way, the kind of tired that knows it is allowed, that welcomes stillness like a guest, that lets go of today, not in grief, but in gratitude. The hammock rocks, slightly. A breeze, a thought. You do not know. You sigh, deep. The kind that leaves your ribs hollow and your chest loose. The kind that means you've stopped holding things. The kind that means rest. Below, the dog stirs. Her tail brushes dry leaves. She groans. Then nothing. Your hand falls open. The last of your warmth slips into the night. And still, the forest breathes. And still, the stars blink through the leaves. And still, you are held, by ropes, by air, by the soft persistence of sleep, until even that begins to drift, and the night folds softly around your breath. The forest has receded behind your breath. The ropes no longer cradle you. The trees have stepped back into shadow, and in their place, a room, a quiet, rectangular room, earthen walls, low ceiling, and at its center, the slow, unwavering flicker of fire. You are the watcher tonight. It is your turn, though you do not remember volunteering. You remember nodding or not objecting, which is nearly the same. The others rest, each in their own corner of the house, curved into sleep like dry leaves curling toward their stems. And you sit upright, spine pressed gently against a wall that still holds the afternoon's warmth. You do not lie down, not fully, not when the flame must not go out. The fire lives inside a metal brazier, round, blackened, old enough to have forgotten its first use. A shallow bowl with ash settled thick at its bottom, cradling a few glowing coals and one stubborn flame that dances low but refuses to die. You have fed it twice tonight, quietly, slowly, as though not to startle it. The room smells of everything it has ever held: wool, spice, skin, oil, soot. Your own scent is folded in now too. You've been here long enough for that. The layers of sleep and watching leave their trace. Your hands smell of ash and copper, your sleeves of smoke. Your breath tastes faintly of yesterday's lentils and today's silence. The fire makes no noise, or almost none. A crack, perhaps, every dozen breaths. A soft hiss when a bit of oil clings to the edge of wood. But mostly, it is a quiet, flickering thing, more like a thought than a sound. You watch it with one eye, the other closed against your sleeve. Half sleep is a kind of skill. You did not mean to learn it, but you have. The ability to drift without sinking, to nod without surrender. You close your eyes for 10 heartbeats, then open them again, then close. Like waves, you come and go, a little less awake each time, but never quite gone. You shift. The mat beneath you is reed-woven and thin. It presses patterns into your hip, your shoulder blade. The blanket across your knees has fallen sideways again. You do not correct it. Warmth is only a memory anyway. You keep it out of obligation, not hope. Somewhere to your right, someone mutters in their sleep. The words mean nothing, or they do, but only in that soft language dreams speak, where syllables blur and memory rearranges its furniture. You don't turn to look. The mutterer will quiet soon. They always do. A beetle taps against the clay wall, just once, then again, then silence. The little creature tracing its strange midnight rituals, never bothering with the logic of day. You consider tapping back just to see what would happen. You don't. Outside, beyond the door curtain, night holds its breath. The courtyard is darker than the room. No moon tonight, no wind. Only the air, thick and unmoving, like water in a jar. You imagine it pressing gently against the closed wooden door, listening to your breathing. You do not believe the flame is sacred, not in the way they say. You do not think fire is divine, but you do believe it deserves to be kept alive. That's different. This fire, this flickering witness to so many dark hours, it doesn't care about belief. It only needs watching, feeding, patience. Your foot is falling asleep. You stretch it, slowly, so it doesn't disturb the mat too much. The bones in your ankle click like tiny pebbles shifting underwater. You imagine you've become part of the architecture now, that you'll be found here in the morning, stiff as the furniture, silent as the brazier. You think of the stars, though you haven't seen them tonight. You picture them hanging somewhere above the house, above the roofs, above the roofs above those roofs, small fires of their own. No one watches them, and yet they burn. Your mind wanders. It always does when the body stills. Thoughts soften and stretch, like dough left too long in the bowl. You remember a dream you had once, or maybe it's happening now. You were in a courtyard, pouring oil into a dish, and the oil sang a song you couldn't understand. When you woke, you had the taste of it in your mouth, like pomegranate seeds and salt. A floorboard creaks, slowly, no footsteps, just the complaint of age, the house remembering itself, settling its weight a little deeper into the earth. You hum, very faintly, just to remind the room you're here too. Your voice doesn't carry. It drifts, absorbed by clay, by wool, by years. You feed the flame. One small stick. Barely more than a splinter. It catches quickly, greedily. You almost envy it. Its purpose so clear, its hunger so simple. You wish your own needs were so easily met. Your eyes close again, this time longer. A full minute maybe, maybe more. A moment outside of moments. You wake again, not with a jolt, but a sigh. You are still here. The fire still lives. The night still holds. You rub your palms together, not to warm them, just to remember they're yours. They feel distant now, like borrowed things. You press them to your cheeks, then back to your lap, then still again. In the far room, someone turns over. A soft shuffle of limbs and blanket. A wheeze. Then calm. You imagine their dreams, folded tightly like clean linens. You envy their depth. You live now only in the shallows. The oil lamp on the wall has burned low. Its light no longer reaches the corner where the tools hang. You can still smell the wick. It has its own scent, sharper than wood, more delicate than smoke. You once heard someone say it smells like time. You did not disagree. A memory arrives uninvited. You once held a coal too long between tongs, not realizing it had cracked. It fell, singed the edge of a rug. You stamped it out quickly, and no one noticed. But the scorch mark stayed. You think of that now. How damage leaves shadows even after it's gone. How fire gives and takes in equal measure. You think of breath, not just your own. The breath of the flame, the breath of the sleeping house, the breath of the world outside. In and out, in and out. A rhythm older than language. You match it without trying. Your legs ache now, knees stiff, back heavy. The cushion offers no help. But you stay. You must. The fire is smaller than before. It will need you soon. A rat scuttles beneath the floorboards. Not far, not fast. It moves like it knows this place, like it's lived here longer than you. You welcome it silently. A fellow watcher. The room feels smaller than before, as though the night has tightened around it, as though the flame, in its slow shrinking, has drawn the walls inward. You are a bead of light, strung on the thread of darkness. You feed the fire again. Another sliver of wood. You whisper something to it. Not words, but an exhale with shape. The fire nods, then dances. You no longer know what time it is. You no longer care. Time belongs to those who sleep deeply. You belong to the waking, to the keeping, to the in-between. Your hand rests near the brazier, not too close, just enough to feel the edge of warmth. You close your eyes again. This time, longer. This time, softer. You drift. But even as you drift, one part of you stays. The part that watches, that listens, that feels the flame's breath and calls it sacred, not because it is, but because it must be. The room does not change. The fire does not die. The night does not move. And you remain, not fully asleep, not fully awake, held lightly between the two, as the flame flickers once and bows, but does not go out. The flame still flickers in your memory, soft and stubborn in the night, but now you have left the watcher's seat behind. The stone has faded. The ash has cooled. You have passed through a curtain, not of cloth, but of time. And you are lying now in a room where silence is not a void, but an arrangement, a composition, deliberate, gentle. The floor beneath you is bamboo, tightly laid, polished smooth by the weight of centuries, by bare feet and patient brushes. It hums with the temperature of the evening, not warm, not cold, just there, cool to the touch, like the inside of a wrist, like moonlight that's learned to hold its breath. You lie stretched across a low platform, your body wrapped in a robe that sighs when it moves. Silk, pale, embroidered, perfumed in ways you no longer distinguish. The scent is part of you now. Your back finds the faint rise of the mat beneath, padded just enough to remind you that you are no longer standing, no longer needed. Not until morning. Around you, the room does not press. It opens. Airy walls paneled in latticework breathe the quiet rhythm of night. A faint breeze, more idea than substance, passes through the slats, trailing behind it the distant echo of bells. Not loud, not cheerful, not urgent, just present. Like ghosts with nowhere better to be. Your pillow is firm. You thought it would bother you. A block of wood, lacquered and smooth, carved in curves that match the crook of your neck. It's meant to keep the hair neat, they say. It's meant to align the body, they say. But that isn't why you use it. You use it because it's familiar now. The weight of it beneath your head, the coolness along your temple, the sense that someone, long ago, decided you would sleep this way, and you never had the reason to argue. Somewhere outside, past the courtyard, a flute calls once. A single breath-soft note. You do not know if it's real. You do not care. The night here is made of fragments, a rustle of silk down the corridor, the faint clack of a wooden sandal slipping free, the breeze nudging the doorframe like a cat denied entry. None of it asks for attention. It simply exists. Like the stars above a roof you do not need to see. Your fingertips brush the edge of the blanket, too thin to protect, too soft to deny. Silk again, not for warmth, but for the texture, for the way it glides along your skin like a thought barely spoken. You pull it higher, just a little, and it pools beneath your chin with a sound like the shifting of a dream. Behind the far screen, someone shifts. You know who it is by the rhythm of the movement. Familiar, habitual, rehearsed. They always turn twice before settling. Always sigh when they face the wall. You don't speak. You never do. But their breath tells you when it's safe to let go of your own. The ceiling above you disappears into shadow. Carved beams stretch across it like the bones of a quiet animal, each one sanded smooth and darkened by smoke from meals you did not cook, ceremonies you did not attend. You watch them anyway, not for their meaning, but for their stillness, their refusal to change. The candles were snuffed earlier, but not cleanly. A thin thread of smoke still lingers, winding around itself near the wall, too stubborn to rise, too shy to vanish. You smell it. Not fire, not danger. Just the memory of a wick that did its job. Your feet rest on bare bamboo. You thought of wearing slippers to bed, but it seemed ungracious, like bringing a shield into a garden. Here, even the discomfort is curated. The floor reminds you of mourning, of ritual, of pacing from room to room without ever raising your voice. You let your toes press against it now, cool, smooth, patient. The night outside does not howl, it whispers. Leaves shift in ways that suggest speech, but never words. A frog coughs somewhere near the pond. A servant murmurs too loudly, then hushes. A door slides, then rests. All of it behind you. All of it outside. Inside, it is still. You remember being a child and hiding beneath this very platform bed, tracing the knots in the wood with your thumb, listening to your elders recite poetry they thought you couldn't understand. You did not understand. Not then. But the cadence stayed. The rhythm nested somewhere behind your ribs. Now, lying above that memory, you almost feel it pressing back from beneath. The ghost of your younger self curled in the dust, silent and wide-eyed. The walls do not close in. They lean away, modestly. Everything here is constructed not to impose, but to recede, to allow your presence without reacting to it. You breathe, and the room does not answer. It allows. There is a bowl on the table across from you. You can't see what's inside, but you know. Dried petals. A mix of things chosen more for their names than their effects. Plum blossom, osmanthus, chrysanthemum. The kind of arrangement meant to suggest wealth without boasting. Their scent doesn't fill the room. It lingers only when the wind permits. You do not feel tired, not in the way that demands sleep. You feel folded, like a robe placed carefully in a chest, not in use, but not discarded, waiting in the quiet dignity of rest. The roof creaks once, a low complaint. You imagine it adjusting itself, bones settling into the shoulders of the house. You are not alone here, but nothing is watching you. The house breathes around you. It forgets you and remembers you in cycles. You let your hands rest across your stomach, palms down, fingers loose, a posture you were taught, though you've forgotten when. It aligns the breath, someone once said. It invites calm. You do not need calm. You already float inside it. Someone laughs, faint, female, too far to care. The sound travels across stone, softened by distance, folded by walls. You do not know the joke. You are not part of that world tonight. You are here, wrapped in silk, pressed to bamboo, held loosely by the night. Your mind drifts, not forward, not backward, just outward, a ripple across still water. You remember the feeling of brushing your sleeve against a pine needle in the garden, the prickly resistance, the sound your shoes make when stepping across gravel at dusk, the way your father once corrected your posture with 2 fingers and a breath. None of these things matter now, but they come anyway. The wooden pillow warms beneath your skin, not hot, just not cold anymore. Your hair remains coiled and pinned, too elaborate to undo. You will sleep with it like this. You always do. A quiet sacrifice to the image you must restore each morning. Sleep here is not collapse. It is descent. A surrender wrapped in formality. You fall gently, layer by layer, like ink on a rice scroll. Slow, deliberate, absorbed. You close your eyes, not to escape, but to deepen. To enter the part of night where sound has weight and dreams wear embroidered robes. Silence does not arrive. It has been here all along, seated beside you, hands folded, watching. A bell rings, far off, a single chime. Not for you, but you hear it. You allow it to pass through. The air has cooled. Your toes retreat beneath the silk. Your breath evens. You stop waiting. Now, only softness remains. The hush of fabric. The creak of bamboo beneath still limbs. The soft clatter of a screen gently swaying. The sound of sleep, not sudden, not full, but earned. You turn your head slightly. The pillow resists, then accepts. A strand of hair tickles your cheek. The bells have stopped, and the room, finally, forgets you. The heat from the day still lingers, clinging low to the ground, like a final breath that refuses to rise. You do not move quickly. No one does. Not at this hour. Everything slows in Meroa when the last of the sun's fire dies behind the stone silhouettes of the pyramids, crooked teeth on the horizon, biting into the pink belly of the dusk. The air here does not cool the way it should. It thickens instead, becomes weighty. You move through it like pushing against syrup. Even your bones feel swollen with the memory of sun. The mat you lie on is made from woven reeds, brittle from use, softened by the press of many nights. You've turned it 3 times this week already, hoping for a corner less familiar with your shape. But each side holds the echo of you. The straw knows you well, and it does not forget. The round hut hums with the noise of a life lived plainly. There is no door, just a curtain that barely stirs. Outside, the night sounds begin with patience. A beetle scraping dry earth. A lizard flicking from rock to wall. The wind, when it comes, arrives already tired. And in that stillness, you hear the great hush of the land. It does not sleep. It remembers. Your skin is covered in fine grit. Not dirt exactly, but the powdered remnants of stone and ash, wind-borne and eternal. You feel it settle into your elbow crease, the back of your knees, the small dip beneath your chin. Tomorrow, you will wipe it away again. Tonight, it becomes part of your dreams. Someone exhales loudly on the other side of the hut. A relative, or a neighbor, or someone in between. You share more than space here. You share breath, warmth, mosquito bites, strange little jokes from earlier in the day, and the quiet understanding that no one really sleeps all the way through. The pyramids, they are not far. You cannot see them from where you lie, but you can feel them. The earth around them feels heavier, as though history has mass. Even your mat feels tilted slightly toward them, like the dead below still shift and pull the world inward. You're not frightened by it. You've never known anything else. Beneath your back, the clay floor has cooled, but still whispers of the afternoon's blaze. It radiates upward in gentle pulses, as if sighing into your spine. You're too tired to shift. You'll sleep crooked again. You always do. There is incense burning faintly somewhere nearby, bitter at the edges, sweet in the center. The scent settles in your mouth like dust. Someone lit it for the ancestors, or for the spirits, or just because they were afraid not to. You don't ask anymore. There are rules here that are older than questions. The baby near the wall makes a wet hiccup of a noise, not quite a cry. No one stirs. Everyone has learned the language of waiting. How long until she truly wakes? Whether this sound will echo or end. You close your eyes again. You won't sleep yet, but you'll practice. You shift a toe. A mosquito lands on your shin like it owns the place. It does. You slap at it lazily, miss, and feel it return a moment later, bold with the certainty that it is part of the order of things. You itch. You sigh. You stay where you are. Outside, the stars are beginning to burn through the blue-black ceiling of the sky. You imagine them flickering behind your eyelids, sharp and distant and unbothered. A jackal howls, or maybe it laughs. It's hard to tell the difference when you're this close to dreams. There is a pot on the hearth, still warm. You know it by the way the room smells faintly of sorghum and ash. There won't be food again until the sun returns. But that scent, half memory, half ghost, is enough to soothe your stomach into stillness. You hear someone's breath catch in their throat and then smooth out again. There is always someone snoring, someone dreaming, someone turning on a mat that is never quite wide enough. Your hands are dry. You run a finger across your own palm and feel the calluses like forgotten stories. You think of water, not to drink, not now, but to bathe. Cool water poured slowly over your shoulders. You imagine it in a copper basin. You imagine not being the one to fetch it. The thought makes you smile, briefly, before it melts. Somewhere in the dark, a chicken shifts on its perch. The rustle of feathers. The dull scrape of claw on wood. Even the animals are still half awake. You remember the old woman who told you once that the pyramids could sing, not with voices, but with the heat they held and the way the wind scraped over their faces at night. You strain to hear it. You almost do. A breeze finally arrives, late and apologetic. It enters the hut like someone uncertain they belong, makes its way across your chest, then leaves without ceremony. You miss it the moment it's gone. Someone coughs, and the sound bounces off the curved walls before settling into silence. The fire has died down, but the coals still wink now and then, stubborn as memories. You adjust your head on the bundle of cloth you call a pillow. It smells of oil and old sweat. It is not comfortable, but it is known. There's something holy in the known, even when it itches. The mat creaks beneath you, or maybe it's your hip. The lines between self and surroundings blur when you've lain still long enough. You are not separate from the ground. You are part of the landscape, folded into the hush of the village, the breath of the earth, the waiting of the dead. You wonder what your dreams will bring tonight. Old stories, old faces, the feeling of running or sinking or flying without knowing how. Or maybe you'll dream of nothing. Sometimes, nothing is kindest. A beetle crosses your ankle. You do not move. The beetle has its path, and you have yours. and tonight they happen to meet. It passes. You remain. The sky deepens into itself. The pyramids do not glow, but your memory of them does. The shape of them leans against your ribs like a story half whispered, half forgotten. You hear the night settling. You feel your limbs grow heavier. You are being folded into sleep slowly, like cloth pressed into a basket. And somewhere, beyond this little room of heat and mat and breath and dust, somewhere beyond the reach of this sighing hut, the pyramids keep their watch, unmoved, unblinking. And still the night presses on, still it presses in, and still, gently, softly, it holds you. The fire has ebbed, and so have the dreams. You are not awake, not entirely, but the stillness has shifted, and your body, creaking and unsure, remembers the rhythm older than time itself. First sleep has ended. It is not morning, not yet, only something between. The thatch above your head groans faintly with the wind. It doesn't whistle. Whistling is too clean a sound for these damp and heavy nights. Instead, it seeps through, a hush that carries the smell of cold earth and sheep manure and the half-distant wetness of someone's wool cloak left outside by accident. Your eyes open, but see little. The hearth gives off a low orange glow, the kind that doesn't cast shadows, only softens edges. You know the shapes in this room not by sight, but by memory. The stool with the broken leg, the bucket of winter apples, the pile of tools that lean in judgment near the door. You do not look. You already know where they are. It is your body that sees now. Tired feet recognizing the floor before they touch it. Your back remembering where the draft will come through the wall, even before it stirs. The pallet is straw, but flattened. You've lain on it too long, too often. It smells faintly of old sweat and the herbs someone once scattered in it to keep the lice away. They did not stay away. Beside you, the others still sleep. Mostly. One turns, the stiff sound of wool against wool. Another lets out a breath that might be the end of a dream. There is a child nearby. You're not sure which one. They make a small snoring sound, the kind that only very small noses can make, like a reed being chewed by a lazy river. You do not rise all at once. The weight of night is thick. You lift your legs first, slow, then your torso. Your head stays bowed. You look like a plant that never quite finished growing. There is no clock. There never was. You've only your bones and the coals to guide you, and both are telling you it's time. Not time to begin the day, only time to pause the sleep. The stretch between sleeps is narrow and strange, a quiet hour known only to those whose bodies must rest in pieces. You do not question it. You just live it. The floor is uneven, packed dirt pressed and smoothed by generations of bare feet and spilled water. You know it's cold by the feel in your knees before you even stand. You move slowly, partly out of stiffness, partly to keep the room asleep. But the floor gives nothing. It takes your warmth like a greedy cousin, and offers back nothing but silence and a faint dampness that seeps up through the soles. You crouch by the fire, coaxing the ashes. You do not speak. There is no one to speak to, and if you did, the words would have nowhere to go. They would hang in the thick air like smoke that forgot to rise. The hearth is low, sunken. You touch the coals with the end of a stick, then blow, gently, with the kind of care you save for animals and bread dough. The red deepens for a moment, then flickers. It's not life exactly, but it's close. There's a crust of bread wrapped in a cloth, yesterday's, or maybe the day before. You don't eat it. You just hold it. Your fingers press against its surface like it's a stone that might whisper something if you're patient. You hold it for a long time, then place it back. Sometimes you say a prayer. Tonight you don't. The house makes sounds you've always known. The creak of the beam above your head, the hiss of the fire as it finds a damp twig, the gentle thump of someone's foot settling deeper into the straw. The wind drags itself across the roof again. It sounds tired. As tired as you. Some nights you talk to yourself in your head. Nothing important. Not even words sometimes. Just the thoughts that float half-shaped, like smoke rings too soft to hold. Things about the day. The way the old man coughed. The strange look on your cousin's face when she passed you the pail. The fact that the hens have started laying less again. You don't solve anything. You just let the thoughts come and go. Like a stream moving over a stone it will never wear down. Other nights, you stare at nothing. Those are the longer nights, the lonelier ones. There's always the goat. You don't know why she's awake, but she is. She doesn't move much, just watches. You feel it more than see it. Her eyes in the dark are like two secrets held in old jars. You don't look back. You don't need to. You've known each other a long time. Someone stirs behind you, a shift of breath, a cough. Not awake, just moving. Everyone is always a little bit awake, a little bit dreaming. That's the way of this time. Between sleeps, nothing is entirely anything. Even you. You are not the day version of yourself, with boots and burdens. Nor are you the full night one, slack with dreams. You are the in-between, the watcher, the listener, the one who knows the floor by feel and the air by taste. You sit by the fire again. Not close, never too close. Just near enough to feel the ghosts of heat. You don't want to light it fully. That would mean wakefulness, purpose. You want only the hush, the faint shimmer of not quite cold, not quite warm. The space where thought floats, and time folds over itself like a woolen tunic left on the bench too long. Your back starts to ache again, but slowly, as if remembering how. Eventually, your breath begins to change. Slower, heavier. It pools near your collarbone before slipping down. Your fingers uncurl, your shoulders loosen. Not all the way, but enough. The pull of the pallet begins again. You do not think, I will go back. You simply turn, as you have turned 100 nights before. The second sleep calls you the way moss calls a stone. Soft, inevitable, covering. You lower yourself again, carefully, like someone placing an offering. The straw sighs beneath you. The child next to you snorts and rolls away. The goat is still watching. Your eyes do not close right away, but your gaze fades, sliding from the edge of the hearth to the ceiling beams, to the dark beyond the door, where the sky lives. And then, nothing. Not a sound. Not a thought. Just the fire's last whisper, and the gentle shift of your body being taken by sleep once more. The silence carries forward from the night before, stretched thin across the snow like a sheet left out to dry too long. It is not the kind of silence that comes from peace, nor the silence of absence. It is the kind that holds its breath just beneath the frost, the hush that waits with you, sleeps beside you, and watches as your breath curls up into the dome above. You lie on your side. Your weight presses into fur, layered thick but still uneven, still cold where the warmth has not yet returned. Beneath that, blocks of compressed snow curve upward like a womb, enclosing you in a place that was shaped by hand, but now feels older than thought. You don't remember laying down. You remember only drifting, little by little, the way a flake drifts sideways before it settles. Your legs are drawn up toward your chest. There is no space to stretch fully, but that's not a complaint. This curl of a position has become your shape in the world, the way the chill passes through joints more slowly when they fold inward, the way heat from your own limbs can circle back to meet you. You've learned to survive not by fighting cold, but by folding around it like a breath held too long in the chest. Above you, the smoke hole is open just enough, just barely. A soft draft creeps through, not sharp, but constant, like a memory that never stops visiting. You can feel it touch the tips of your eyelashes now and then. a coolness that makes you blink even with your eyes already closed. A low murmur. Someone stirs beside you. Their shape is half formed in the dimness. Fur piled, blankets overlapping, breath steady but slow. They have been dreaming or talking to someone in a dream, and the words have slipped into your half-sleep without asking. You do not recognize them, but you feel no need to. In here, you all share the same breath. The oil lamp is still glowing, barely. Its light is a smear more than a flame, tucked in the stone bowl filled with thickened seal oil. A wick, once sharp, now slumps at the edge, its shadow quivering against the curved wall. The smell is gentle now, dull, like smoke that has married the air so completely it can't be separated again. Everything inside the igloo is close. It has no corners to hide in. Everything touches everything else. Your elbow against someone's shoulder, your heel grazing fur, your cheek against fabric that smells faintly of sea and effort. Even the air touches you like skin, layered and slow, sometimes warm, sometimes not. The children have been told stories. Earlier, before the hush took over. They've heard them many times before, but they ask for them again, always in the same order, always with the same questions, and always laughing at the same wrong parts. You had almost fallen asleep during one of them. The story of the man who forgot to respect the sea. Or maybe it was the one about the fox who married a storm. They blend now. The voices blend. And the endings never matter as much as the sound of the telling. You think you can still hear it. One child, the smaller one, repeating a line under their breath. Maybe to remember it. Maybe to keep it from disappearing completely. You do not interrupt. Even the sounds in this place are sacred in their stillness. There is a rhythm to sleeping here, but it's not your rhythm. It belongs to the cold, to the oil lamp, to the wind outside. Sleep comes when it can, in stretches, in starts, in pieces that must be stitched together by patience and the weight of furs. You drift, then return, then drift again. And in between, you listen. You hear a creak, a shift of snow, not from the inside, but above, something faint, possibly a fox's step, or maybe the long groan of settling ice. It doesn't matter. What matters is the way the sound passes through the igloo's skin and becomes something you can feel in your teeth. Your arm is asleep. You try to move it gently, lifting it across your chest, tucking it into the warm place beneath your opposite elbow. Pins and needles whisper through your skin, not painful, just bright in their presence. A reminder that your body is still yours, even here, even half buried in warmth. Someone coughs, a dry, scratchy sound that ends too soon to satisfy. You wait for a second cough that never comes. You try to imagine whose it was, and you fail. In this dimness, voices are not names. They are shapes, weights, positions on the sleeping mat. You know them by how close they sleep to the lamp, by whether they curl or sprawl, by the smell of their breath when they turn towards you. There is no fire in the traditional sense, just the lamp, just bodies, just breath layered with breath. In this place, you are all part of each other's warmth, not by choice, but by necessity. You learn to trust in proximity, in silence, in the discipline of breathing slowly, so your exhale doesn't steal too much from someone else. You think you hear the sea again, not real sea, but the echo of it, remembered from the day before, from the cracks in the ice where the light caught blue and fish passed beneath, from the sound of it filling the distance between silence and somethingness. Now it fills your ear like a shell pressed too long against the side of your head. You roll slightly, careful not to touch anyone who does not wish to be touched. Your fingers brush against a hard edge, a bone carving perhaps, left near the furs, a charm, a tool, something important in the light that has become merely shape now. You leave it untouched. In places like this, nothing is misplaced without meaning. Your thoughts thicken again, grow woolly. They braid themselves into nothing, into sensation, into colorless patterns. You do not sleep, not fully, but you no longer think either. This is what they mean by in between. Your lips are dry. You press them together. They stick faintly. The air drinks water from the body. That is its nature. No one complains. Complaints are for those who expect more than the igloo can give. You expect only that it will not collapse. And even then, you are not certain you'd mind. You adjust the fur against your neck, pull it higher. The shift releases a scent, seal hide, long worn and smoked into memory. It smells of work, of time, of shelter. It smells like being held by something ancient. The child has stopped whispering. They've slipped under. Deeper than you. You envy them, but gently. You remember when sleep came that easily, before you knew the weight of stories, before the flame needed guarding. And now the lamp has gone out. You hadn't noticed. The room has not changed, but something inside it has. A new layer of stillness, a closing of an unseen eye. You let yourself settle into it. You hear breath. You hear nothing. You hear both at once. You do not sleep. Not quite. But you are not awake either. You wait beside the night, and it waits with you. The warmth of the fire has long slipped from your skin, but the scent of frankincense clings. It lingers in folds of linen, in the curve of your wrist, in the weight of your damp hair gathered behind your neck. You can still feel the water's parting hush where it touched your spine. The last kiss of a tepid bath grown slowly cold beneath painted ceilings. The echoes of your footsteps through the atrium are fading now, folded into the hush of the marbled night. Everything is quiet, except the fountain in the courtyard, whose soft trickle has no memory of the hour. You recline where the cushions are cool, and the stone behind your shoulder still carries the chill of dusk. The silk beneath your elbow crackles faintly as you shift, as though the bed itself resents your presence. Nothing here was made to be comfortable, only beautiful. You are, as always, at the mercy of design. Above you, the shadowed beams cross like ribs overhead, dark against a ceiling painted to resemble the heavens. But the illusion falters in moonlight. The stars on the ceiling are still. The ones outside shift and wink behind columns. Real things move. Painted ones are only ever waiting. The blanket across your waist is soft, but thin, for appearance. The real warmth is a second layer folded at your feet, meant to be pulled up only after the servants have gone, which they have, or they should have. You listen, just in case. Not for them, but for that almost sound, the kind of movement that's not movement, the weight of another body shifting in another room, another bed, across polished tile too far away to see. Someone else breathing, not quite near, not quite alone. The walls around you are covered in plaster scenes, frozen myths. Even in half dark, they watch you. You've never been able to decide whether it's better or worse when their eyes catch candlelight. There is a brazier, but it burns low. The coals glow orange and smell faintly of citrus and ash. There was a time when it would have been tended through the night, when hands not your own would have turned it, checked it, fed it. But the household is quieter now, leaner. Nights are longer without the staff to hold them at bay. The oil on your skin is beginning to cool. Your arms stick slightly to the cushion where the oil didn't soak in. It smells of lavender, or something meant to be lavender. Maybe it's rosemary, or maybe it's simply the ghost of whatever burned in the baths earlier, floating up in steam and memory. The bath was warm, but not hot. Hot would have been indulgent. You are not supposed to indulge. That is the illusion of restraint in this house. Every comfort wrapped in quiet denial. Heated floors that only warm the souls. Cushions that are never quite thick enough. Wealth, but not softness. You are allowed luxury, so long as you do not admit you enjoy it. Your toes are still damp. You meant to dry them more thoroughly, but the cloth was scratchy, and the chill from the floor reached up through your heel and made you impatient. Now your foot, half tucked beneath the other leg, sends a slow ache into your calf. You let it stay that way. Movement is too loud. Far off, past another archway, a breeze stirs the drapery. It moves with the rhythm of breath. Long in, long out. You imagine the wind outside, slipping through stone corridors and half-open shutters. The air here is always scented with something. Pine resin, olive wood smoke, the damp decay of marble fountains that never quite dry. You've grown used to it. You hardly notice anymore unless the wind changes direction. You think idly of your comb, of the teeth missing from its ivory spine, of the way it catches when your hair is still wet. You should have laid it on the table properly, but you left it half hung over the edge, where it rocks slightly in the draft. You'll hear it fall later, when you're almost asleep. The lamp at your side was trimmed earlier. Its light is low and yellow, but steady. It has a way of warming the corner of the wall it faces, making it look like morning in that one small place. The rest of the room remains in yesterday, or last year, or somewhere else entirely. There are footprints in the dust along the far edge of the mosaic floor, bare from the last time you crossed after a bath. You know because one toe left a smear, and you remember pausing, annoyed, and then forgetting to wipe it away. Now you stare at it like a map, a path from some other version of yourself when your hair was drier and your thoughts were louder. You wonder if the water from earlier has found its way down the cracks in the tile, if it has soaked into the grout, if, over time, every bath ever taken in this room has slowly dripped into the bones of the house, if the walls remember. Somewhere beyond, there is the clatter of a terracotta roof tile adjusting itself in the breeze. Or perhaps it's an animal. You no longer try to tell the difference. The sounds are part of the place. You belong to them more than they belong to you. There is a book on the low stool beside your bed, open but unread. The script curves tightly across the parchment, dark ink still sharp in its bends. You meant to finish the passage before the lamp ran low, but the shapes of the letters grew soft and unfamiliar. You let them blur. Now the page glares faintly, reflecting more than revealing. Behind you, the mattress sighs slightly as your weight shifts. The rush-stuffed padding inside always settles unevenly, one side higher than the other, the middle slowly sinking in the shape of a body that lies here too often. There is a hollow under your shoulder, a ridge beneath your knees. You know every flaw. You have named them with the precision of someone who cannot sleep and has nothing better to do. Sleep is slow to come here. It always is. Too much light, too much architecture. Nothing surrenders to darkness the way it should. Even your dreams, when they arrive, are ornamental, draped in gold, speaking in voices you don't understand. You remember the sound of sandals earlier, the clipped shuffle of a servant passing through the hall, long after dinner. You remember the way they paused near your door, then moved on. You don't know what they wanted. You didn't ask. Things happen quietly in this house. Loudness is for the poor. Your body is tired, not from work, but from waiting, from sitting through speeches, from standing through meals, from holding your spine straight in a room where every surface reflects your posture back to you. Decorum is an exhausting weight. You curl your legs slightly, drawing your knees toward the edge of the blanket. The silk shifts with you, a sound like a breath caught in fabric. Outside, the fountain continues its endless reply to nothing. The water has always sounded the same, but you listen anyway, hoping it will forget itself for a moment and tell you something new. Your shoulder itches, just below the collarbone, where the edge of your robe folds. You scratch, then stop, then scratch again more gently. The itch lingers. You live most days at the edge of small discomforts. They are the proof of existence here. The patricians do not sweat. They itch. There's a distant flicker of torchlight on the far wall. Someone is passing by. Perhaps a night watch, or a restless cousin, or a slave with nowhere else to be. You don't know them. You never do. But the light bends around the column briefly, and you imagine the shape of their foot, the rhythm of their walk. They will forget they saw this room, but you will remember that they passed. Your eyes are heavier now. The oil on your skin has dried. The ache in your calf has softened. The blanket at your feet is still folded, still waiting, but you do not reach for it. Not yet. You breathe out. It sounds like wind in an empty courtyard. The fountain still whispers. The comb still balances. The lamp still burns. And the marble beneath you still waits to remember the shape of your sleep. You slip from the memory of the last sunrise, the moment the air began to tremble with heat, long before your lids lifted, as though the world had already begun to dissolve into dust. Now, in the slow turning of night's hours, you lie upon the compacted earth, the brick beneath your mat, retaining the day's warmth, holding it softly against the hollow of your back. The soil murmurs beneath you, a quiet persistence. Earth that remembers footsteps, footsteps that remember prayers. You feel the grain of the ground through the mat, the uneven mortar beneath each breath you release. That warmth is steady, gentle, as if the river had warmed the stones with its passing, though it is silent now. The courtyard has emptied of life, and all that remains is dust, still, and the hush of brick sealing in centuries. Somewhere beyond the thin wall, the neighbor coughs, a single click of throat in the cooling air, yet the sound does not intrude. It settles into the hush. Another cough, more remote. The walls are close, shaped from the same sun-baked red, each block slightly soft at the edges, shaped by morning dew and decades of warmth. The odor here is dry, earth and herb, faint incense perhaps blown in earlier, or the perfume of cracked ceramist jars that held spices long ago. You taste it on your tongue when you breathe, a memory of markets and dark passageways, and a promise of rest. Your limbs are weighted with the day's labors, gathering grain, sifting silt, stacking clay bricks that shimmered in the heat. The ache in your shoulder is slow and dull, the kind that settles in bones and tells you you are still alive. You do not mind it now, not in this quiet. You cradle it like a friend, an echo that hums across the shifts of night. The ache is your body remembering the world, and the world remembering you. The stars, unseen beyond the roof's flat edge, press their silence through the thin ceiling. You cannot see them, but you know they are there, pacing slowly overhead, pinpricks of half-remembered light. You think of the river, once brisk in moonlight, singing through the fields and engraving shallow furrows across your palms. That river marked your awakening, but here, in soft darkness, there is only the echo of its passing. You breathe in that echo like a prayer. A rat scampers behind the far wall. Its claws scrape soft grooves in the mortar, hardly louder than the buzzing of a distant insect. You imagine its small heart beating inside the brick, and you almost feel kinship. You are both creatures cut from flesh and longing. You both know the smell of darkness, the taste of a cold night. Your sibling lies nearby, pulled into sleep before you, curled into their own quiet dreams. You hear their chest rise and fall beneath coarse linen. Something stirs in their hand, an almond shell perhaps, or a fragment of clay, left there in the shift toward slumber. You imagine that small piece in your own hand, rough and red, maybe etched with a mark or a word. A talisman. Perhaps your sibling thought it would ease the night, but it only reminds you of the dust. Dust that settles on everything, that gathers in mouths and throats. Because here, in Harappa, the divine hovers at the edge of breath. The seals etched with horned beasts and dancing men, buried in walls and urns. Do they remember their own markings? Do they dream? You do not know. You only know the earth beneath you feels like a body, a great body inhaling the day's heat and exhaling dusk's cool. Your cheek brushes the mat. Coarse weave, bits of chaff caught under your skin. You roll your head and feel the line of brick beneath it. Cold, slightly damp. A cooler pillow than anything silk could provide. You wonder how often the walls have seen such nights. How many breathers before you folded into dust themselves. The night is quiet, but not empty. Somewhere, water settles in a jar, small ripples echoing across stone. A goat bleats in the distance, calling in the dark, and you picture its pale eyes in pale moonlight. Its bleat is thin, high-pitched, and strangely tender, like a child's sigh at the end of day. You let it pass through you, and it uncoils in the corridors of your mind, drifting like lantern smoke. You reach for the corner of your mat and rub your fingertip across the edge. The fibers give way in a hush. It leaves a speck of dust on your nail, and you press it against your nose. The scent is dusty, aged, ancient, intimate. A perfume no one else would pay attention to. A scent you now crave. Your limbs shift. The brick below creaks under shifting weight. You feel the house respond. Walls contracting, earth exhaling. The space acknowledges your presence. Something in this hush presses back. You hold your breath against it, as one might hold water in cupped hands, for the sake of peace. Near the ceiling, the plaster has cracked in a minute arc. You stare at it and see a slow thread of moonlight, as delicate as silver string. The plaster's edges are jagged but soft. You think of the first pebble that struck it when the house was new, and the last one just hours ago. You imagine the crack knows you, knows the shape of your dreams, the temperature of your skin. Your body is drifting. You feel the hollow beneath your ribcage where hunger rests. You did not eat much today. Only barley mush and peppers, a gulp of water. Toasting bread is expensive, and stacking bricks makes hunger an ornament. Now, in this silence, the hunger is a companion. It reminds you that dreams can take you away, but dreams require energy, and energy requires food. Still, you cannot resist its quiet presence. Hunger is a tether, and you clutch it because it says you may still awaken, that you have a reason to breathe and to continue. Without it, you might simply dissolve into dust yourself. The house shifts. A panel of clay tumbles loose. You hear it settle in sand beneath. A small thud. You hold your breath. Then nothing. You exhale. The gardener built this house with care, but wood and clay never last. Only the earth persists. There is wind now, light, like a breath across your cheek. It slips through a crack, brushing hair aside. A breath that could carry a fragrance. You imagine crushed coriander or crushed lime. A breeze from beyond the courtyard. You lean into it. Let it brush across your cheek and linger, as though you are midway between dream and wake. Under your palm, the mat shifts again, a whisper of movement. You sense shapes beyond vision. Your sibling's silhouette, the goat crouched beyond the wall, the neighbor just beyond clay and mortar. All of you breathing into dust, all of you waiting. Somewhere far off, the river weaves through your memory, its lap against banks, its hum in twilight, its promise of renewal. But here, beneath the bridge of brick, there is no renewal. There is endurance. You draw your legs closer. The ache in your calf slows. The ache in your back recedes. The hunger becomes empty air. You feel yourself growing weightless, as though the brick is shifting to carry you, to warp around your shape and cradle you, an embrace made of earth. Above, the night gathers itself. You no longer try to map its edges. You no longer distinguish between dust and breath, between brick and body. You inhale the world, exhale yourself. One last breath. The crack in the wall, the goat's call, the distant cough, the falling water, the distant river. You let them all drift together in a single seam of silence, and then you follow them. You follow the faint pulse of embers settling in the hearth, the glowing pulse of life slipping into silence, and you lie beside the dying coals in the round hut. The night air drifts its cool breath through the doorway, brushing your shoulder like a reminder that even heat must ebb. The high-pitched bird calls from outside have dimmed to a few distant trills, and the fire's last flickers scratch orange patterns across the clay walls. You sense the wide ring of the hut as a living thing, an organism breathing quietly around you, containing everyone and everything in its domain. Your skin bristles at the drop in the air's weight. It tastes of charcoal, earth, and the faintest memory of dried meat. It's the aftertaste of the evening meal, the stew that simmered for hours over the flames, the ghost of spices that still hover around your nostrils. The stick of wood that was fueling the blaze sags under the hearth's weight, collapse imminent, as though it is reluctant to let go of warmth. You stare at the glow and feel the curve of smoke pooling above you, settling like a low cloud that won't fully rise. Beneath your ribs, your heart beats slowly, matching the fire's ebb. You trace its slow rhythm with your fingertip, feeling the soft thrum against your side. You don't mind the darkness. It's a velvet curtain you've known for years. It carries the world's weight in a hush so full that every breath tastes deeper, more necessary. Small sounds mingle now. The soft rustle of dried grass used to fill the hut's floor. The shifting of your sibling's thigh as they kneel in front of the hearth, adjusting a broken pot or stirring coals with a stick. The pot's glaze cracked tonight, and they have been tending to it longer than makes sense. All around, there are bodies. In the corner, an ant. Farther away, a cousin's child. At the very edge, the goat tethered to the post, bleating softly before settling again. You close your eyes and feel the echo of that bleat beneath your eyelids. It hums like a lullaby, one you did not choose but learned to sleep within. The goat is both sentinel and symbol, an eye always watching beyond the fire's circle. You picture its small head, its ears alert and pricked, and you share a silent communion. Two creatures attuned to ember and bone. The heat from the coals bathes your calf and shin in a slow, dissolving warmth. You press your foot closer, grateful for the comfort. It's a sensation that holds the memory of every night you've lain beside hearths, here in Zululand, there by a river in childhood, elsewhere in huts that smelled like rain. You feel generations of warmth in that glow, ancestors folded into each ember a small letter in an unending conversation. A breeze slips through the doorway, carrying the scent of acacia and dried dung from the kraal outside. It slides across the hut's floor and pauses at your heel as though sniffing you. You sense it lift dust motes that spiral toward the hearth, where they melt into the firelight briefly before drifting into the darkness. You imagine they carry memory, tiny particles that know the shape of smoke, the sound of the sun's descent, the sensation of clay walls growing cool. Your bones ache gently, memories of long days, carrying water, climbing hills to gather wood, grinding grain. Each breath feels like it weaves those labor stories into your ribs and sinews. Under the open sky earlier, you could feel the sun like weight. Now you can feel the chill that follows it. You welcome it. It reminds you that rest must follow labor. The coals breathe their last. An ember shifts and collapses. You identify the final spark, sharp and vivid, bright as a star, and it dims. A flicker of smoke rises, as thin as a spine, then blends into the overhead cloud of soot. It feels abrupt, like the end of a poem you didn't know you were listening to. Silence arrives like a blanket that's too heavy, suffocating without weight. You hold still. The neighbor's cough drifts through the hut's earthen walls, a reminder you're not alone, that community persists in breath and bone. You feel gratitude for the solidity of these clay walls, their mild dampness anchoring you to the world. Your siblings' breathing shifts. They lie close to the hearth's memory, their hair smelling faintly of smoke, embers caught in their braid. You reach for their hand, but you only skim each other's space in the dark. And that's enough. The awareness is enough. You roll onto your back. Your spine creaks like settling wood. You imagine yourself laid on grass under that same sky, feeling the earth's pulse. Here, the earth beneath you is layered, from the hard-packed floor to the looser shells of reeds, to the clay that rises up, rising like a mother crushing you gently in sleep. You surrender to that embrace. The goat sighs, heavy and low. It has settled at the door. You sense its presence, not separate but connected. It too is part of this end-of-day ritual. Breath, pause, faded flame. It reminds you that all living things share this moment, this breath. You breathe in the hut's darkness. It tastes of ash, earth, smoke, goat, and time pooled across generations. You exhale. You imagine that breath travels through walls and across dust and escapes into the night sky, joining the pulse of all who breathe around you, in huts and kraals, in the shade of trees, and beneath open heavens. The dome of the hut seems to murmur back. You feel the walls breathe around you, as if they carry your exhale. The goat shifts again, nails tapping on dirt. The world holds that sound. It resonates in your chest. Pain lingers in your knee, a remnant of a stumble while collecting wood earlier this evening. You don't resent it. It reminds you you are flesh. You trace the ache mentally, letting its borders blur and drip away in the low heat lingering across your leg. You think, this is how it should feel, like slight friction in water, enough to recall yourself but not enough to disturb deep sleep. The breeze settles. The walls absorb it. You can almost feel the clay peeling away layers of air, memories, breath. You drift, and small dreams ascend, each fragile as sparks that do not glow. You lie beside the ashes of evening. The night has closed around you. Sleep arrives unannounced, a murmur in your lungs, a fold in your bones, a drop of darkness. And in that darkness, the hut sighs. The breath you let out still carries the scent of smoke and sheep wool. It drifts upward, invisible in the dark, and disappears into the vast velvet sky stretched endlessly above your head. The air is open here, colder than it should be, the kind of cold that feels old, ancient and unbending, like it remembers every rider who has crossed this step before you. It curls around your shoulders, even beneath the layers, even inside the yurt, even with the flap drawn tight and the hearth just recently dimmed. Your bed is not quite a bed. It's a quilted nest of sheepskins and rolled-up saddle blankets laid atop the thick woven rug beneath you, and your spine has memorized every dip and wrinkle of it. Beneath that, the earth is hard and wide and indifferent. You lie upon it like a visitor might sleep on the chest of a woman, cautious, reverent, never fully at ease. You know the stars are waiting just beyond the felt roof, thousands of them, sharp as needles and distant as memory. The coals in the hearth still glow. They do not crackle now. They simply exist, faint red circles inside their own silence, releasing heat like a goodbye. You can feel their warmth on your shins, fading in increments you can measure by breath alone. The lamb fat in the air has turned faint and sweet. The smell of boiled millet lingers in the fibers of your tunic. Everything here has weight, not the heaviness of sorrow, but the gravity of continuity, of endlessness. Even sleep feels circular. Someone else shifts in the dark, a cousin perhaps, or a visiting uncle. Their breath is a rustle, then a quiet snore, then stillness again. The goat near the door stirs once and then settles, her hooves tapping once against the wooden threshold. You feel her in your mind, curled like a watchful question mark beside the flap, her nose twitching at the scent of frost on the wind. The wind never fully stops, not here, not on the step. It wraps around the yurt like a lover or a thief, pressing, brushing, whispering. Some nights it howls. Tonight it murmurs. And inside the walls creak softly in reply, their ribs of willow bending just slightly with the breath of the plain. You let your hand rest palm up on the mat beside you, fingers half curled in the direction of the coals. Your knuckles feel the cold even as your chest holds on to the final warmth of the fire. You've learned not to move too much. It wastes warmth. It disturbs the silence. Movement belongs to day. Night belongs to stillness, to memory, to slowness, to all the stories people do not say out loud. A horse snorts outside. Not yours. You would know the tone if it were, but the sound is familiar enough to be unthreatening. A low huff, a stomp of frostbitten grass, the clinking of a harness shifting as the wind nuzzles against fur and metal. You imagine the beast's breath in the air, fogging the stars, dissipating without ever rising. Your own breath feels heavier now. It slides into your chest like wool, warm and slow, and you exhale it like smoke. You try to picture the stars. You know they're there. You've seen them too many times to forget. Even with the yurt above you, you can recall their arrangement. Not as constellations, you don't know their names, but as presence, as distant, reliable company, a sky full of eyes that never blink. You once lay outside for an entire night, wrapped in hide and stupidity, testing your own endurance. You remember the way your nose burned with cold, the way your thoughts slowed until they felt like hooves dragging through mud. You remember watching a star fall and not bothering to wish. It was too far, and your wishes were too small. Tonight, you're warmer. Tonight, the yurt is enough. The reed mat beneath your side has flattened slightly with use, shaped now to your hips and ribs. You've earned that curve. Your blanket smells of sweat and mutton and distance. You bury your chin beneath it and blink slowly, even though the darkness behind your eyes is no different than the darkness within the yurt. It's all the same shade, ancient, familiar, wide. You wonder how many have slept like this, how many backs have pressed into this same kind of ground, how many lungs have inhaled this same sequence of firewood smoke and animal breath and milk that's gone slightly sour in the cup. You feel them somehow, their weight in the air. Not ghosts, just echoes, just the gentle weight of all those who came before, heavy as an old saddle. Someone mutters near the back wall. You don't open your eyes. You recognize the voice even through sleep-syruped hearing. It's not words, just the broken language of dreams, mumbled into wool. You shift your foot slightly, making space without touching them, and they settle again. A harmony, unspoken. You exist beside each other like fire and ash. One never fully disappears, the other never fully rests. A cough from the far corner. The goat snorts again. Your stomach lets out a quiet complaint. All of it is part of the night's rhythm. There are no pure silences here, only layers, only breath. The step beyond the yurt is endless. You feel it through the walls, not see it, not hear it, but sense it, like a pressure, a weightless weight. A presence so wide it turns even dreams into echoes. The sky above that step is not a ceiling, it's a mirror. You know this. You've seen your own breath vanish into it. You've seen the moon cast shadows so sharp they looked carved from bone. Your eyes flutter open once more. You watch the coals. Their glow is nearly gone. Just red veins now, like cracks in the night's teeth. You imagine pressing your palm to them, not to burn, but to remember what warmth feels like. But you do not move, not even to scratch the itch rising near your ankle, not even to shift your aching knee. The stillness is sacred. If you move, you might forget the shape of this moment. Outside, the world sleeps like you do, in pieces. The earth doesn't dream in full. It drifts. It pauses. It forgets and remembers in the same breath. You feel it in your spine. You belong to it, and it to you. Your face grows colder now. The blanket has slipped slightly, but you do not correct it. The cold is gentle tonight, like the hand of a grandmother long gone. You let it press against your cheek, and you do not flinch. There will be more rides tomorrow, more saddle sores, more firewood to gather and milk to boil. The wind will howl again, The sky will watch again. The ground will press upward against your foot soles until they remember the weight of centuries. But not yet. Not tonight. Tonight the air holds you. The coals whisper to you. The goat hums her secrets at the door. And the sky stretches above you like a blanket you will never outgrow. You could live 100 more years and still not reach its edge. You let your breath match the hush around you. In, outside, in. You sleep now. Not all at once, not deeply, but fully enough. The last coal fades. The yurt sighs, and the sky remains.